Chapter 2844. In order not to be disturbed, Su Fong had left Fontaine City and steered the Peach Soul sky-crossing arc to the chaotic void far away from the mystic world. The Peach Soul sky-crossing ship was actually a mobile cave residence. There were all kinds of quiet rooms, specially prepared for cultivation. There was also a space in the arc that had a chronoformation. Cultivating for 50 years in the formation was only a year in the outside world, just like the abode Su Fong had rented in the Chamber of Commerce. However, maintaining the operation of the Peach Soul sky-crossing arc and the chronoformation required an astounding amount of resources. Even with Su Fong's current wealth, he could not afford it. Su Fong was going all out in order to ascend. Su Fong had left Fontaine City and entered the chaos to ascend as a Dao Lord because of Daozu's suggestion. As for the reason, Daozu did not elaborate. Su Fong naturally obeyed Shixin Daozu's words, letting the Peach Soul sky-crossing arc float in the chaos. Su Fong sat cross-legged in the formation and began to prepare to cultivate for a period of time before attempting to ascend to the Dao Lord realm. Suddenly, Su Fong, a thought actually penetrated the powerful boundary surrounding the Peach Soul sky-crossing arc and entered the chronoformation. The thought then turned into a silhouette. It was the Heaven Pavilion expert Tuo Qianji, who was presiding over Dongshuan's Jioshuan. Who would have thought that Tuo Qianji could still find Su Fong when he was so far away from the mystic world? His ability was unfathomable. Su Fong quickly stood up and cupped his fists. "Sir, it looks like you're planning to ascend to the Dao Lord realm." The silhouette formed by Tuo Qianji's thought nodded at Su Fong, his attitude unusually amiable. "Yes," Su Fong answered. Tuo Qianji said, "You can amaze the world with your Dao Lord cultivation base. When you ascend to Daoist Lord, you will definitely be able to compete with the geniuses from the other god domains in the upcoming finals and bring glory to Dongxian." After encouraging Su Fong, Tuo Qianji continued, "I know that the grudge between you and Dongxian Hui Wang, Dongxian Jun, and the other Heaven Pavilion disciples runs deep. Geniuses can only train each other by competing with each other. Therefore, Heaven Pavilion will not stop the competition between the two of you. The higher-ups of Heaven Pavilion won't stop it either, nor will they use Heaven Pavilion's power to suppress you. I hope you understand." It turned out that Tuo Qianji had come here to express his goodwill to Su Fong. Su Fong cupped his fists and said, "I understand. The finals 10,000 years later will be far more dangerous than the elite competition due to the participation of geniuses from other god realms and monster clan experts. You must be careful." "Yes, thank you for your reminder. I would like to remind you that in the finals, the Yi clan will send a peerless genius from Zhongshuan into the Blood Valley. Their target is you." Su Fong was confused. "For me? Yi Feibai died at the hands of the blood monsters. Why is the Yi clan looking for me?" Yi Feibai did die at the hands of the blood monsters. The Yi clan had sent people to Dongxian before, and Heaven Pavilion had given them the same answer. However, if I'm not mistaken, this Peach Soul Sky-Crossing Fairy is Yi Feibai's Xianbao. Yi Feibai's accompanying experts have all died at your hands. Also, did Yi Feibai really die at the mouth of the blood monsters?" Su Fong chuckled awkwardly. The Peach Soul Sky-Crossing Fairy he was currently using was Yi Feibai's Supreme Xianbao. As for Yi Feibai's subordinates, although they did not die, they were no different from being dead. They had all become blood pigs for Su Fong to recover his life and increase his cultivation base. As for Yi Feibai himself, although Su Fong had not killed him personally, it was Su Fong who had plotted for him to be swallowed by the blood-refined mastiff. Even if Su Fong had interfered with Heaven's revelation, with Tuo Qianji's ability and the will of the Blood Valley, it was not difficult to find out the real culprit. Tuo Qianji obviously knew the truth of the matter, but he did not reveal it. He wanted to do Su Fong a favor. The shadow formed by Tuo Qianji's thoughts stared at Su Fong. "Heaven Pavilion has blocked the inquiry of the Yi clan's higher-ups for you. If you meet the Yi clan's geniuses in the finals, you have to rely on yourself." "Thank you, sir." Su Fong cupped his fists in gratitude. "No need to thank me. Heaven Pavilion's higher-ups and even Lord Daozu will not forget that you stopped the invasion of Dongxian by the foreign tribes. As Tuo Shinji nodded, the shadow turned into a beam of divine light and disappeared from the inner space of the formation. Su Fong calmed himself down and devoured the medicinal pills and spiritual items, as well as the lives and cultivation base of the blood pigs. At the same time, he cultivated the Jioshuan's Wuji scripture and tried his best to break through to the realm of Taoist master. Just as Su Fong was in seclusion, in the void far away from the Peach Soul sky-crossing airship, a silhouette stood in the air. Bloodlight surged in his eyes, and the Peach Soul sky-crossing ship was reflected in his eyes. His extraordinary vision allowed him to see the Peach Soul sky-crossing ship clearly. Ling Xingqian. Unexpectedly, Ling Xingqian had come to the chaos as well. Obviously, he was not here to sightsee, but had come for Su Fong. Su Fong, oh Su Fong, if you had stayed in the mystical world obediently and had the protection of the Jioshuan's heavenly laws, I would have to be wary. Now that you have come to the chaos, you are courting death. From the looks of it, Su Fong is preparing to break through to the realm of Taoist master. I might as well wait for him to break through before suppressing him in one fell swoop. His strength had just increased, and he would be suppressed immediately. Everything that he had worked so hard to obtain would all belong to me. At that time, what kind of expression would he have? I am really looking forward to it. Ling Xingqian muttered to himself, revealing a complacent and ferocious smile. His handsome face caused one's hair to stand on end at this moment. In the depths of Daolis City, Daolis Sect's training ground, QL 11 Dongxian Jun was sitting cross-legged in the palace. He suddenly opened his eyes, and then his hands formed a strange seal. A Xian Guang bloomed from his hands, and it quickly condensed into a lifelike shadow of a black-robed middle-aged man's soul. Dongxian Jun, why are you looking for me? Hi Dongyang. You were originally an elder of the Great Sun Limitless sect, but you were hiding in the Three Supreme Profound sects. I discovered your identity when I was investigating the remaining members of the Great Sun Limitless sect. Back then, you made an agreement with me. As long as you were willing to work for me, I would help you hide your identity. Don't tell me you have forgotten. What is it? Say it. Kill Su Fong for me. Kill Su Fong? This is too difficult. Once this matter is exposed, I won't even be able to keep my life. You want to go back on your word? Don't forget that your life is in my hands. You, a disciple of the Heaven Pavilion, are actually so ruthless and ambitious to try to control me. Kill Su Fong. Just this one matter. In the future, you will continue to be an elder of the Three Supreme Profound sects, and I will still be a peerless genius of the Heaven Pavilion. If Su Fong doesn't die, I will die. Before I die, I won't let you have an easy time. Forget it. I will do as you said. Just this one matter. After this, we will be even. If you still don't let it go, don't blame me for fighting you to the death. The black-robed, middle-aged man stared coldly at Dongxian Jun, and then his figure turned into a ray of divine light and disappeared. Su Fong had been in the Peach Soul Ship's time formation for nearly 100,000 years. In the outside world, only 2,000 years had passed. On this day, Su Fong suddenly flew out from the Peach Soul sky, crossing ship's boundary. After sucking the treasure ship into the Tao Palace, he immediately switched to the heavenly Tao body. A surge of yin and yang divine might and world power surged out from the heavenly Tao body and instantly covered an area of 1,000 miles in the chaotic void. Then, Su Fong performed a formation to complement the world divine might. Qi, qi, qi. Under Su Fong's divine might, the chaotic void immediately condensed into particles of matter, and then quickly condensed into a substance with an area of 10 miles. Su Fong created layers of formations around the substance, and then sat cross-legged in the center of the substance. After meditating for about 100 years, Su Fong suddenly opened his eyes. His aura was released from his body, and it swept in all directions of the chaotic void. The silence lasted for less than 10 breaths of time. Above Su Fong's head, the chaotic void that was originally empty suddenly fluctuated, and then a shocking tribulation cloud surged out. In the distant void, Ling Xingchen, who had been paying attention to Su Fang's every move, was overjoyed when he saw the commotion. He's finally going to undergo the heavenly tribulation. When ordinary cultivators undergo the 9-stage heavenly tribulation, the tribulation cloud will cover an area of about 1,000 miles. I wonder how large the tribulation cloud Su Fang will attract will be. Su Fang, you must not disappoint me. The greater your achievements, the greater the fortune I'll obtain after devouring you. When human cultivators underwent the heavenly tribulation, they could cause the heavenly Tao contained in the chaos to resonate when their cultivation reached a certain level. Although the heavenly tribulation that a cultivator attracted when advancing to a major realm was the 9-stage heavenly tribulation, the heavenly tribulation was different due to the different great Taos that each cultivator cultivated. In addition, each person's talent and potential were different, so the heavenly tribulation was different as well. At the level of a Tao master, this difference was even more obvious. The size of the tribulation cloud represented the cultivator's talent and future achievements. The great Taos that a cultivator cultivated and the degree of understanding of the great Taos that they comprehended would also be different in the power of the heavenly tribulation. The greater the power of the heavenly tribulation, the greater the test for a cultivator. After successfully overcoming the heavenly tribulation, their strength and future achievements would naturally surpass ordinary cultivators. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The tribulation cloud continued to surge out, rolling and surging like roaring seawater. An ice-cold and majestic supreme pressure enveloped the entire area, causing the chaos to tremble unceasingly. When the tribulation cloud stopped surging out, it actually stretched out to an area of 10,000 miles. When Ling Xingchen saw this scene, he also sensed the terrifying aura of the tribulation cloud at the same time. In an instant, the divine light in his eyes changed. 10,000 miles of tribulation cloud. This human brat actually attracted 10,000 miles of tribulation cloud. Such talent is truly heaven-defying. It's fortunate that I met him. Otherwise, once he grows up, he will definitely be another peerless expert of the human race. Then he licked his lips. His tongue was actually blood red, and his eyes flickered with an excited luster. Devouring such a genius of the human race, you Tao must be very good. In the chaos of the void, a scarlet flying sword bloomed with a red light that was as bright as the sun. It was flying in the void. A black-robed, middle-aged man was sitting cross-legged on the flying sword. Chapter 28:45. That's not right. That should be the God's tribulation that a Tao Lord cultivator would attract when he's attempting to become a Taoist Lord. Why is the tribulation cloud so large and its aura so terrifying? The black-robed, middle-aged man halted his flying sword and looked at the frightening tribulation cloud from afar in shock and bewilderment. After sensing carefully, the black-robed, middle-aged man was both surprised and delighted. It's Su Fang. I've searched high and low for you, but to no avail. I didn't expect to find you here and coincidentally encounter him undergoing the tribulation. It looks like you won't be able to escape this time. This person was Hai Danyang, an expert of the Boundless Tao sect who had infiltrated the 3 Taishang mystical sects under Dong Xinjun's orders. He's worthy of being Dong Xuan's peerless genius. The Taoist Lord Tribulation is so frightening. No wonder the Boundless Tao sect's meticulous plan in ancient Blue City was ruined by this person. Hai Dongyang was shocked beyond words as he exclaimed. Then he took out a conch-shaped Xian Bao and activated it before releasing his nascent divinity intent. Elder Executioner. Talismans used for communication had lost their function in the chaotic void. Hai Dongqing's Xian Bao was indeed extraordinary as it could transmit his nascent divinity to Elder Executioner across endless time and space in the chaos. Not long after, Elder Executioner's impolite voice came from the conch Xian Bao. Hai Dongyang, you know that I was severely injured last time. I've only just managed to recover my energy after asking Great Elder Zhang's son for help. I'm cultivating now, but you're disturbing me for no reason. You better have a valid reason or don't blame me for being rude. Elder Executioner was famous for her eccentric temperament in the three Taishang mystical sects. Hai Dongyang's status was similar to hers, but she was still so impolite. Hai Dongyang chuckled. I was wandering the void and met an interesting person by chance. This person is also the culprit who injured you. I wonder if Elder Executioner is interested in this person? After a moment of silence, Zhu Xian's resentful voice came from the Kangxian Bao. Su Fong. Su Fong is currently in the chaotic void, not under the protection of Jiushuan's heavenly laws. He's currently going through his tribulation. I heard that Elder Zhu Xian has been hunting this child for a long time. I've also heard that this child is vengeful. He's already famous in Dongxian. Sooner or later, he'll find Elder Zhu Xian. I have also heard that First Elder Chang's son is determined to obtain this child's spider. If I can obtain it and give it to First Elder Chang's son. Hai Dongyang, why did you suddenly tell me about Su Fong? What is your intention? To be able to become an elder of the three supreme mysterious sects. Not only was he strong, but he was also cunning and shrewd. They were all old foxes who had cultivated for countless years. Naturally, Heartbreaker saw through Hai Dongyang's intentions. Hai Dongyang smiled sheepishly. I only thought of contacting Elder Zhu Xian because I met Su Fong by chance. Yet you're suspecting me. Fine, I've left the three supreme mysterious sects mark where Su Fong is. Elder Zhu Xian, you could decide what to do with it. Then, Hai Dongyang put away the Kangxian Bao and looked in the direction of Su Fong's tribulation. His eyes were gleaming with pride. After the tribulation cloud brewed for a while, a golden mist floated out of it. An extremely sharp aura enveloped Su Fong and the space within 100,000 miles. The golden mist condensed into a dazzling sharp sword, slashing towards Su Fong with an invincible momentum. It's not a lightning tribulation. What kind of tribulation is this? Su Fong was stunned. But before he could think any further, more than a dozen thoughts immediately rose from the array formation, defying the heavens. The thoughts executed the origin returning 6 fusion sword technique. Sword chi erupted and turned into a sword formation. Su Fong originally thought that a Dao Lord's heavenly tribulation was at most at the level of an ordinary Dao Lord. He could easily shatter it with the most ordinary divine ability. Little did he know, the sharp sword formed by the power of the tribulation not only contained the shocking power of heavenly punishment, but it also contained the supreme metal elemental Taoist rhyme that could destroy everything. It also had an extremely sharp will that could destroy everything. Under the pressure and impact of the tribulation's power, Su Fong felt as if a sharp blade had slashed his thoughts, causing them to be torn apart. Then, the golden sharp sword landed on Su Fong's sword formation. Without Su Fong's thoughts, the sword formation became vulnerable and was shattered by the golden sharp sword. Chi! The golden sword light directly slashed on the material formation Su Fong was in. It instantly shattered the formation and charged towards Su Fong. What kind of tribulation is this? How can it be so powerful? Su Fong Dao was shocked. The blood armor quickly appeared on his body. Crack! The golden sharp sword slashed on the blood armor with the sound of metal clashing. It was shattered by the blood armor's powerful defensive ability. Golden light flew everywhere, and blinding golden light illuminated the endless void. A sword mark appeared on Su Fong's blood armor. After a burst of bloody light, it slowly began to heal. His colorful jade Dao heart also seemed to have been slashed. His Dao heart wavered, and his head was in intense pain as if it had been split open. Su Fong couldn't help but be shocked. A Dao Lord tribulation is so shocking. If I hadn't ascended to God Lord of bloody slaughter, this tribulation's power would have been enough to severely injure me. What kind of tribulation is this? The Shi Xian Daozu spoke faintly in Su Fong's mind. That's the first tribulation of the Jiushuan return to void great tribulation, the metal tribulation. The Jiushuan return to void great tribulation. Metal tribulation? Why is my Tao Lord's tribulation different from other cultivators? That's because you cultivate the Jiuquan Limitless Sutra. The Jiuquan Limitless Sutra is a scripture bestowed by the heavens. It touches upon the supreme essence of the great Tao. Therefore, when you undergo the Tao Lord's tribulation, it will cause the chaos to resonate, and the most powerful Tao Lord's tribulation will descend. The Jiuquan return to void, great tribulation. Master, you already knew that you would attract the Jiuquan return to void, great tribulation? Su Fang glanced at the sword mark that was slowly healing on his blood armor and couldn't help but smile bitterly. If the Shixian Daozu didn't know that the tribulation was so powerful, he definitely wouldn't have let him leave Square Sky City and come to this chaos. Of course. Then why didn't you remind me? On the path of cultivation, you have to be vigilant at all times. The slightest carelessness will cost you your life. I purposely didn't remind you because I wanted you to suffer a little. If I didn't make you suffer a little, do you think you can dominate Jiuquan now? Su Fang immediately became alert. Thank you for your teachings, Master. The 9 profundities to the void grand heavenly tribulation is the most formidable type of Daolord's grand heavenly tribulation. It's the energy of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, lightning, time, space, and yin and yang that were born from the void when you cultivated the 9 profundities to the void grand heavenly tribulation. These 9 types of energy are the quintessence of all things and techniques. I understand now. The Jiuquan return to void, great tribulation, means that everything I have will return to the chaos of nothingness. Just now, it was the metal tribulation. Next, it will be the other 8 powers of heavenly punishment. That's right. You have to be 120% alert to deal with it. As for the other ants that are interfering with your tribulation, ignore them for now. Just as Su Fang and the Shixian Daozu were conversing, a layer of green Xianguang floated out of the tribulation cloud after brewing once again. An incomparably majestic wood elemental aura that emitted infinite vitality instantly filled the void within 100,000 miles. Chi, chi, chi. From the chaos of nothingness, dots of green light appeared and rapidly grew into flowers and trees. Moreover, they were not ordinary flowers and trees. They were all spiritual creatures that were rarely seen in the mystic world. In an instant, the space around Su Fang turned into an ocean of endless trees and flowers. The abundant vitality caused the vitality in Su Fang's body to suddenly become majestic. The vitality surged in his body, and it was terrifying. However, Su Fang could tell that there was a great danger within this endless life force. Extreme prosperity would lead to decline. The extreme of life was decline and death. This was the true meaning of the wood elemental Grand Tao. Heaven-piercing blood king vine, devour. Su Fang immediately urged the heaven-piercing blood king vine to devour the wood elemental heavenly tribulation aura that permeated into his body. The heaven-piercing blood king vine was also a wood elemental life form. The incomparably majestic wood elemental heavenly tribulation aura was a great tonic for it. It quickly devoured the wood elemental aura in its body and extended it to Su Fang's body. Soon, it swept the area within 1,000 zhang radius. This was already the heaven-piercing blood king vine's limit. If it continued to devour, it would not be able to withstand it. Damned human brat, that's this reputed one's descendant. Seeing this, Ling Xingchen was unable to restrain his anger. Crimson veins surfaced on his skin and quickly turned into terrifying blood vines. It turned out that Ling Xingchen was not a special disciple of the Three Supremes' mysterious sects. He had been possessed by the mother of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine was heavily injured and was being hunted by the Eastern Xian Divine Region's experts. No one would have thought that it would possess Ling Xingchen and transform into a genius disciple of the Three Supremes' mysterious sects. It even took the opportunity to sneak into the Blood Valley and participate in the Jiuquan's Heaven's chosen elite competition. So many Dongxian powerhouses could not see through it. Now that the mother of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine witnessed Su Fong unleashing its unique innate ability, it was naturally infuriated. Why is the Taoist heavenly tribulation that Su Fong attracted so different? Hai Dongyang could not help being shocked when he saw how peculiar Su Fong's heavenly tribulation was. Boom! The flowers and trees around Su Fong grew to their limits. Their vitality fell rapidly like the ebbing tide. All the plants began to wither and eventually turned into ashes. The tribulation force of the wood Tao, which went from flourishing to withering, swept towards Su Fong from the surroundings, wanting to lead his life and cultivation base to the decline and death. The power of the wood tribulation is actually so powerful. When the metal tribulation descended, Su Fong had almost suffered a great loss due to his carelessness. How could he dare be careless now? He released more than 100 strands of consciousness in one go. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. The strands of consciousness that contained the essence of the mystical Yang Dao shot out thousands of rays of dazzling light, turning into bright red divine suns. A power that could revitalize all life swept out from Su Fong and collided with the heavenly tribulation force of the wood tribulation. Chapter 28:46. Su Fong suddenly opened his mouth and blew out a breath of air that landed on the divine suns formed by those thoughts. Boom! Boom! The divine suns were originally slightly dim, but after Su Fong injected his breath into them, they instantly became resplendent again. The power of the wood tribulation was finally swept away by the shocking might of the divine suns. Whoosh! As soon as the wood tribulation disappeared, water light surged out from all directions and instantly turned into monstrous waves that swept toward Su Fong. Su Fong instantly felt a shocking pressure that crushed down heavily from all directions, causing his body, Tao Palace, and even his Tao heart to feel a terrifying pressure. At the same time, rumble! Countless burning meteors descended from the tribulation clouds, bringing with them an extremely shocking impact and the divine might of flames as they rumbled towards Su Fong. The surroundings were vast and surging oceans, and above were burning meteors. This time, the three tribulations of water, fire, and earth had descended at the same time. At this moment, the might of the heavenly tribulation had already far surpassed that of an ordinary Tao Lord, and it had even reached the height of a peak Tao Lord. That human brat won't die in the heavenly tribulation just like that, right? Ling Xingqian raised his eyebrows. Of course, he wasn't worried for Su Fong, but he was worried that Su Fong would die in the heavenly tribulation, and he would naturally be unable to devour him. When he saw this shocking scene, Hai Dongyang was also extremely shocked. What heaven-defying cultivation technique did Su Fong cultivate? What heaven-defying fortune did he obtain to actually attract such a terrifying heavenly tribulation? Even a peak Tao Lord expert would find it difficult to pass such a heavenly tribulation. The possibility of this brat passing the heavenly tribulation is not more than 10%. I even spent so much effort to lure Heartbreaker over and borrow her hand to get rid of Su Fong. Looks like all my efforts were in vain. Hai Dongyang stroked his long beard and chuckled. Suddenly, his divine light changed slightly, and then he activated the crimson sword beneath him and disappeared into the void. In the next moment, a figure emerged from the void. It was the elder of the three supreme mysterious sects, Heartbreaker. Su Fong, it's really you. And what kind of Tao Lord tribulation is that? Heartbreaker's eyes flashed with resentment as soon as she saw Su Fong. When she discovered that Su Fong was facing the heavenly tribulation, she was instantly stunned, and then she laughed happily. Su Fong, so what if your talent is heaven-defying? So what if you're protected by the heavens? Now that you're going to die in the heavenly tribulation, let's see who can protect you. Facing such a shocking heavenly tribulation, Su Fong's gaze, heavenly tribulation's heavenly tribulation. A 300-meter tall pagoda phantom quickly enveloped Su Fong and his surroundings. The heavenly tribulation water, heavenly tribulation, heavenly tribulation, Heavenly tribulation Su Fong's thoughts and willpower were added to the mysterious yellow avatar. With the addition of the 6 godly powers, the huge waves crashed onto the mysterious yellow avatar again and again. However, the mysterious yellow avatar was as immovable as a mountain. Swish! 2 more avatars were released by Su Fong. Heavenly tribulation primordial spirit dharma body. Streaks of thoughts flashed out of the heavenly tribulation's tribulation, erupting with divine power that enveloped the sky. The primordial spirit dharma body condensed its thoughts and created layers of formations in the sky, forming a second line of defense. The flaming meteorite whistled and rushed into the divine power released by the heavenly tribulation's tribulation. The flames immediately separated from the meteorite and then quickly dimmed, struggling against the power of the heavenly tribulation's tribulation. The meteorite crashed into the formation, and the shocking impact was like the collision of stars. The formation shattered layer by layer in the huge collision and explosion. The primordial spirit dharma body reached out and grabbed several formation talismans, stabilizing the defense. The entire process lasted for half an hour, and the water tribulation power that attacked the heavenly tribulation retreated like a tide. No more flaming meteorites fell from the sky. Su Fong had finally survived the tribulations of water, fire, and earth. Su Fong kept the 3 dharma bodies, primordial spirit dharma body, and heavenly tribulation, heavenly tribulation, heavenly tribulation. Although he had successfully resolved the tribulations, Su Fong had also paid a heavy price. The Essence Soul avatar expended an astonishing amount of power of Essence Soul as cracks appeared on the Xianwang avatar. Not only the Dharmakaya, but each kind of heavenly tribulation contained a different kind of will pressure, which made the colorful light around Su Fong's jade-colored Taoist hard dim a lot. Only the Xianyang celestial body did not suffer any damage. Instead, it benefited greatly. The Black Yang celestial body could refine and absorb the power of the extreme Yang by using the Yang refining mysterious technique. Even the heavenly fire in the heavenly tribulation had been refined by Su Fong. Therefore, not only was there not much consumption, but there was also a lot of improvement. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine and Executioner Grandma, who thought that Su Fong would die in the 3rd tribulation, were surprised when they saw Su Fong calmly resolving the tribulation. Moreover, Su Fong had displayed 3 Dharmakayas, all of which possessed extraordinary abilities, which made the 2 of them exclaim in amazement. Su Fong attracted such a shocking heavenly tribulation and had so many extraordinary Dharmakayas. It was enough to see how shocking Su Fong's potential was. Su Fong's performance made the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine and Executioner Grandma feel greatly threatened. If I don't kill him, I'll be killed by him in the future. I'm really lucky to be able to devour such a genius of the human race. Executioner Grandma and the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine were about to attack Su Fong at the same time. However, at this moment, the tribulation cloud in the sky surged crazily again. It was brewing an even more shocking heavenly tribulation power. It's not over yet. QL11, the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, quickly stopped. Executioner Grandma's condensed thoughts also quickly dissipated. What a joke. If they attacked Su Fong at this moment, they would attract the heavenly tribulation's attack. Moreover, it would be a terrifying heavenly punishment that surpassed their strength. With their strength, even if they did not die, they would be severely injured. Whoosh crack. The tribulation cloud had been brewing for more than 6 hours. First, an ethereal divine aura flashed out of it, enveloping Su Fong and the surrounding area within 100,000 miles. Then, a thunderous sound exploded, shaking the surroundings. Ling Xingqian, who was possessed by the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, had a terrified look in his eyes. His body flashed, and he teleported thousands of miles away. For a foreign race like him, the thing he feared the most was the power of lightning. Last time, he was severely injured by the Jiuxuan's heavenly law's power in the ancient Blue City. That was also a type of lightning technique, but it was far inferior to the real heavenly tribulation. At this moment, Su Fang's tribulation thunder was not only the real heavenly tribulation thunder, but it was also more than 10 times more terrifying than an ordinary cultivator's tribulation thunder. Even the heaven-piercing Blood King vine, a top-notch life form, was trembling with fear, afraid of being affected. Executioner Grandma was also affected by the destructive intent contained in the thunderous sound, and her body trembled slightly. Such a shocking heavenly tribulation. It's probably beyond the limit of a Taoist master. Su Fang was also shocked. His face turned pale, and Caillou's Tao heart was trembling violently. A purple lightning flashed out of the tribulation cloud like a purple dragon dancing wildly. It carried a terrifying divine aura of destruction and attacked Su Fang. In an instant, the area within 100,000 miles turned into a world of lightning. If it was only the tribulation thunder, it would not be fatal to Su Fang. Along with the tribulation thunder, there were also the time and space tribulations. Just as the tribulation thunder descended, the space around Su Fang suddenly rippled like water. Spatial cracks rapidly formed, flashing and suddenly appearing, converging towards Su Fang. No matter how sharp the attack was, it could not surpass the power of space. Even with Su Fang's defense, it could not block these spatial cracks. He would be cut into pieces in an instant. Just as terrifying as the time tribulation thunder and space tribulation thunder, there was also the time tribulation. Su Fang's surroundings were surging with the power of time. Moreover, it was an extremely chaotic power of time. A wave of time energy wrapped around Su Fang's right arm, causing the surrounding time to flow 100 times faster than normal. It caused his arm to rapidly age at a terrifying speed. In addition, there was another force that curled up his legs, causing them to rapidly become thin and tender. It wanted to turn his legs back into an infant state. On the other hand, a wave of energy that caused time to stop wrapped around his waist, causing his body to be unable to move at all. It was not just his body. Su Fang's consciousness and Tao heart were also affected by the time disorder. Tribulation, thunder, time, space. What kind of terrifying potential is required to cause the chaotic heavenly Tao to resonate and to send such a shocking heavenly tribulation? Executioner Grandma was an elder of the three supreme, profound sects. She was naturally familiar with the most common tribulation thunder, time, and space tribulations. She recalled the terrifying experience when she went through the Daolor tribulation. Her wrinkled old face was filled with fear. The three tribulations that Su Fang was facing now were more than 10 times more terrifying than the Executioner Grandma's tribulation. It was enough to prove that Su Fang's future achievements would far surpass hers. If such a genius doesn't die in the heavenly tribulation, where is the justice? Executioner Grandma gritted her teeth. This elder, the three supreme profound sects, was actually very jealous of Su Fang. She was very unhappy when she saw that Su Fang could not escape the tribulation. Blood demon body, black sun body, sky divination, heavenly Tao body. Su Fang was also going all out at this moment. In the face of such a terrifying tribulation, he had no choice but to go all out. The blood demon body flashed out from the Tao palace and came to the side of the black sun body. Streaks of slaughter marks released slaughter chi and formed a sword formation. It carried a monstrous killing intent and attacked the thunder that was descending from the sky. Yang extermination divine fist. Su Fang's extreme Tao transformation technique was an exceptional ability. He released his thoughts and set off a gust of wind that could destroy vitality. It followed closely behind the slaughter sword formation and attacked the thunder tribulation. In Su Fang's Tao palace, the heavenly Tao body released the yin-yang divine might and merged with his body. At the same time, Su Fang's eyes surged with a divine light that could deduce the mysteries of the heavens. It landed on the spatial cracks that were gathering to deduce the trajectories of the spatial cracks. The blood demon body and the black sun body worked together to shatter the thunder tribulation. It turned into streaks of lightning snakes that flew in all directions. For a moment, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Su Fang's figure could no longer be seen. The yin-yang divine might released by the heavenly Tao body quickly dissipated the power of time that was wrapped around his waist. Just as his body regained its freedom, Su Fang's figure flashed, and his body forcefully moved 10 feet to the right. A spatial crack streaked across his right arm and severed his arm from the shoulder. And at the place where he was just standing, 3 spatial cracks flashed and disappeared without a trace. There are also more than 10 spatial cracks that brushed past his body. Chapter 28:47. Su Fang used the heavenly divination mystic solution to deduce the trajectory of the spatial crack. If he was just a hair's breadth off, he would be killed by the spatial crack. Although he had lost his right arm had been eroded by the power of time and had withered. It was equivalent to death. Sacrificing it now did not matter. Heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, replenish blood. Su Fang immediately urged the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to devour Blood Pig's life force. It then seeped into his body and rapidly replenished his life force. The bones and muscles in his legs swelled and wriggled, quickly returning to normal. His severed arm also surged with life and blood, rapidly growing a new right arm. The heavenly tribulation lasted for an hour. Su Fang's celestial body performed the yang refining mysterious technique, releasing the power of the yang extreme power, which penetrated into the purple thunderbolts, greatly reducing the power of the thunder tribulations. Break! Shueshat Dharma body withdrew his aura and rose into the air. He punched, releasing all of God, Lord Shuesha's power. A monstrous killing intent crashed into the purple thunder. Yang extermination divine fist. Xianyang Dharma body also used the extreme Tao transforming mystic transformation technique. The 2 Dharma bodies attacked with all their strength and shattered the purple thunder tribulation. The time and space tribulations also gradually dissipated. Su Fang had finally resolved the thunder tribulation, time tribulations, and space tribulations. However, Su Fang had also paid a heavy price. After putting all of his Dharma bodies into his Tao palace, he staggered and almost lost control of his body to maintain flight. There is still the last tribulation, the yin-yang tribulation. Su Fang took out a dozen high-grade ancient elixirs and swallowed them. He stared at the tribulation cloud in the sky with a grave expression. Su Fang's success in overcoming the lightning tribulation, as well as the time and space tribulations, shocked the sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother, Executioner Grandma, and Hai Danyang, who was hiding in the chaos void. Genius. This human cultivator is a peerless genius of the human race. If we don't kill him, once he matures, he will be a huge threat to the alien race. Ling Xingqian's eyes were filled with endless killing intent. The sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother had also forgotten that Su Fang had devoured its offspring and prevented the invasion of the foreign races. The only thing on its mind was to kill Su Fang before he grew up. Hai Danyang was the same. Even without Dong Xianjun's conditions, he would still try his best to kill Su Fang. Grandmother Executioner felt a great threat from Su Fang. At the same time, she felt a strong sense of jealousy and resentment. How unfair is the heavenly Tao? How can it give this ant such a heaven-defying talent and luck? If I wait for him to grow up, how can I still be alive? The 3 peerless experts who had surpassed the Tao Lord level all had the same intention of killing Su Fang and were about to attack Su Fang. However, the gloomy tribulation clouds in the sky were still churning. It was obvious that an even more terrifying tribulation was brewing. The sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother was dumbfounded. Why is it not over yet? Grandmother Executioner stared at the tribulation clouds. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, lightning, time, and space. There are a total of 8 major tribulations. There should be one more major tribulation. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, lightning, time, space, and yin and yang form the complete heavenly Tao. There is still one more major tribulation, the yin-yang tribulation. The Tao Lord tribulation could attract such a shocking 9 major tribulations. It means that Su Fong is cultivating the supreme heavenly Tao and has touched the true essence of cultivation. According to the information obtained by the Great Sun Limitless sect, Su Fong is also cultivating the Jiuquan Limitless scripture. Why is it so extraordinary that it can touch the true essence of the Great Tao? Hai Dongyang was an expert of the Great Sun Limitless sect who was hiding in the three supreme mysterious sects. He was also cultivating the Jiuquan Limitless scripture. He concluded that the Jiuquan Limitless scripture that Su Fong was cultivating was definitely different from his. Therefore, Hai Dongyang's heart was filled with endless greed. After brewing for almost 2 hours, the tribulation clouds finally erupted with terrifying power. Swoosh! A black and white Xian Guang flashed out from the tribulation clouds and instantly covered the entire area. The chaotic void turned into a black and white world. The black and white Xian Guang started to spiral around Su Fong and formed a huge yin-yang whirlpool that covered an area of 100,000 miles. The whirlpool rotated slowly, a supreme divine power that could wipe out everything, including life, matter, and energy, and turn them into yin and yang qi before finally returning to nothingness swept towards Su Fong. Looking from afar, it was as if a huge black and white millstone had appeared in the void. It was going to grind everything inside into powder. Su Fong was like an ant in the millstone. He looked so small and would be killed by the yin-yang whirlpool very soon. Such a shocking yin-yang tribulation had long surpassed the limits of a Tao Lord. Kid, you have such a day too? Grandmother Executioner's eyes flashed with extreme joy. Then, she said regretfully, "The only pity is the luck spider. If we could get the luck spider, we would definitely be able to obtain benefits from great Elder Zhongsun that would not be inferior to the 6 extreme Tao Saints' Dharma body." Hai Dongyang was also secretly regretful. What a pity! Su Fong's cultivation technique is going to be destroyed by the heavenly tribulation. Ling Xingqian revealed a sinister smile and muttered to himself, "Human kid, if you can even resolve such a powerful heavenly tribulation, I might as well find a piece of tofu and kill myself." Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying yin-yang divine power was like waves crashing towards Su Fong. Within the divine power, there was also a shocking pressure from the will of the heavenly Tao. It suppressed Su Fong's Tao heart, will, and origin soul. Caillou's Tao heart was trembling. Her origin soul was also trembling. Su Fong waved his hand and grabbed out many array talismans. He quickly created a vast array formation around him. However, the array formation could not resist the yin-yang vortex at all. It quickly shattered layer by layer. It only consumed some tribulation power. It's impossible to stop the final yin-yang tribulation with ordinary methods. I have to use all my strength. Su Fong's deep eyes flashed with decisiveness and determination. The Xinyang Dharma body, the Xinin Dharma body, the primordial spirit Dharma body, the blood evil Dharma body, and the heavenly Tao Dharma body were released at the same time. They exploded with monstrous divine power. Boom, boom, boom. The attacks of the 5 Dharma bodies were also crushed by the yin-yang vortex. However, the yin-yang vortex was also weakened. The speed of its rotation and the power it released were obviously weakened. After persisting for half an incense stick's worth of time, the 5 avatars were about to reach their limit. Peach Soul, sky-crossing ship. Su Fong had no choice but to withdraw the 5 Dharma bodies. He did not hesitate to activate the Peach Soul, sky-crossing ship and enter the array formation control hall in the treasure ship. With a wave of his hand, thousands of divine stones fell into a large furnace in the center of the array formation. This large furnace was the core that provided energy for the Peach Soul, sky-crossing ship. After the divine stones were burned, they turned into a shocking amount of energy to power the array formation of the treasure ship and release a powerful defense. The Peach Soul, sky-crossing ship was a King Grade Xianbao. It could travel through the chaos and the void. Its defense was naturally shocking. The yin-yang tribulation struck the treasure ship's defense. The treasure ship creaked. Many of the array formations were shattered. Fine cracks appeared on the ship's body. However, the attack of the Enyang tribulation was finally blocked. QL-11, the energy consumed was shocking. The large furnace was like a bottomless pit. Su Fong had no choice but to continuously throw divine stones into it. Su Fong's wealth was already very rich. However, it could not withstand the Peach Soul sky-crossing ship's devouring power. Soon, the millions of divine stones in his possession were about to be used up. Crack! Crack! Under the suppression of the Enyang tribulation, the array formation of the Peach Soul sky-crossing ship and the ship's body kept shattering. It lasted for an hour. Boom! The array formation was the first to collapse. Then, the ship's body also collapsed. It was quickly devoured by the Enyang vortex. A King Grade Xian Bao was destroyed just like that. Su Fong's heart bled. After obtaining the Peach Soul sky-crossing ship, he had not used it much in order to save divine stones. He did not expect that the Downlord tribulation would be destroyed just like that. How could he not feel heartache? However, now was not the time to feel heartache. After the Enyang tribulation destroyed the Peach Soul sky-crossing ship, its terrifying power suddenly enveloped Su Fong. Puffed. Su Fong opened his mouth and spat out blood. Countless parts of his muscles and bones were broken. This was only because his physical body was strong enough. Otherwise, he would have been crushed into meat paste in an instant. The will of the heavenly tribulation also attacked Su Fong's spiritual world. The multicolored light of his Tao heart dimmed. His Tao heart began to shatter. His will also showed signs of collapsing under the pressure of the heavenly tribulation. Sky-crossing Blood King Vine. Su Fong could no longer use any of his avatars. Only the Purple Fate avatar had not been used. However, the Purple Fate avatar was useless against the heavenly tribulation. He could only rely on the sky-crossing Blood King Vine's ability to devour the life and cultivation of the blood pigs. Then, it seeped into Su Fong's body and used it to resist the Enyang tribulation. Su Fong suppressed more than 30 of Yi Feibai subordinates. Among them, there was a supreme expert who surpassed the Downlord level. The rest were all Downlords and powerful Downlords. They were all treated as blood pigs. After consuming more than 10 blood pigs, Su Fong repeatedly devoured the remaining blood pigs. At this moment, their auras were all weak. After being devoured by the sky-crossing Blood King Vine again, the blood pigs had their life and cultivation sucked dry. At the same time, Su Fong began to devour pills and all kinds of spiritual items. This was especially so for the spiritual items that he had transferred from the 6 extreme Tao Saint avatars. At the same time, he kept on injecting the reincarnation life and death fruits into his Tao heart to rebuild his broken Tao heart. Under the constant attacks of the Enyang tribulation, Su Fong's body was constantly breaking down and then recovering rapidly. The entire process was not only painful, but also extremely dangerous. Su Fong did not know how long he could last, let alone whether he could survive this tribulation. Lie, I must live. Chapter 2848. Time passed so slowly. In just 2 hours, Su Fong felt like he had gone through an era. The power of the Enyang tribulation was constantly being consumed. The vortex gradually shrank, and finally, the black and white vortex turned into a chaotic color and disappeared into the chaotic void. The tribulation clouds in the sky also began to change rapidly. They were no longer in a gloomy state. Instead, they shone with dazzling light. The terrifying pressure that had previously enveloped the area also disappeared without a trace. It's finally over. Su Fong let out a long breath. The feeling of surviving a disaster surged in his heart. He had gone through countless tribulations in the past, but he had never experienced such a terrifying tribulation of the 9th tribulation. This time, he had narrowly escaped death. Moreover, he had suffered heavy losses. Apart from his Purple Fate spiritual body, his other spiritual bodies were almost completely exhausted. His physical body was also severely injured. Even the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine had suffered considerable damage. More than 20 blood pigs, including the red-haired elder who had surpassed the Downlord level, had all been devoured by the heaven-piercing Blood King vine and turned into ashes. Apart from that, he had also lost the Peach Soul Sky crossing vessel. The ancient elixirs that Shi Xian Daozu had given him, as well as the various spiritual items that he had transferred from the 6 extreme Dao Saint spiritual bodies, had almost all been used up. There were also millions of divine stones. Now, Su Fang only had a few ordinary resources left. However, he had finally survived this life-or-death tribulation. After the life-or-death tribulation, he would reap a bountiful harvest. Whoosh, an auspicious aura swept out from the tribulation clouds and instantly fell on Su Fang's body. It burrowed into Su Fang's physical body and every corner of the Dao Palace. The astonishing power of ascension began to erupt within Su Fang's body. It surged rapidly and engulfed his entire body. Su Fang's physical body began to transform. His bones, meridians, flesh, and blood quickly recovered under the impact of the ascension power. Moreover, Su Fang had devoured large amounts of ancient elixirs, spiritual items, and the life force of those blood pigs. Su Fang had not been able to completely integrate them in such a short time. At this moment, under the effect of the ascension power, his physical body also took the opportunity to integrate the remaining life force. This caused his life force to quickly become more vast and majestic. His perfect realm physical body became even stronger. The heaven-piercing Blood King vine also obtained great benefits. Su Fang's Jiushuan Dao Palace was also undergoing earth-shaking changes. The Jiushuan Dao Palace, which was like a chaotic void, continued to expand. It was 10 times deeper than before. The various avatars were also constantly shattering, reforming, and transforming. Su Fang's Dao heart was also undergoing astonishing changes. His Dao Lord tribulation was so shocking. His physical body, Dao Palace, avatar, Dao heart, and even his quintessence and soul were undergoing a baptism at the same time as they withstood the test. So, how could the changes not be shocking? Caillou's Dao heart had also undergone a transformation. His Dao heart began to shrink, becoming more solid and sturdy. The cracks on his Dao heart also began to heal rapidly. His Dao heart, which was originally like a 7-color divine jade, began to change in luster. In the end, it became as hard as a diamond, reflecting a dazzling brilliance. His sensing ability had also become even more astonishing. When he projected his sensing ability, it actually covered an area of hundreds of thousands of miles in the chaotic void. Such a sensing ability was comparable to a peak upper Dao Lord. Moreover, Su Fang had a strong feeling that his ability to control the chaos had increased by 10 times along with the transformation of his Dao Palace and avatar. At this moment, he only needed a single thought to deduce the powerful laws of heaven and execute a powerful attack in the void of chaos. A single thought to create a technique. After the great calamity, Su Fang's entire person underwent a qualitative leap. Now, I become a Dao Lord as well. Su Fang's heart was brimming with great joy. QL 11, the benefits of advancing into a Dao Lord were too great for him. Cultivation was the foundation of all avatars. The stronger the foundation, the stronger the ability and strength of the avatar would naturally become. Su Fang had a strong sense of confidence at this moment. After advancing into a Dao Lord, even if he wasn't in the Blood Valley and didn't rely on the Blood Massacre token and Crimson Avatar, he was completely capable of going head-to-head with Dongxian and even winning. In the following finals of the Jiushuan Blood Valley, Su Fang had sufficient strength and confidence to compete with the peerless geniuses from the other god regions and the experts from the Yao race. Advancing into a Dao Lord meant that Su Fang could place his heavenly Dao avatar alone in the chaos and use it and world fragments to absorb the chaotic aura and transform it into energy to maintain the operation of his universe. When that time came, Su Fang's universe would become a true universe of its own, just like Pang Song's universe. There were too many benefits as well. How could Su Fang not be happy? His advancement and various transformations were still ongoing. Suddenly, Su Fang's divine light changed instantly. A silhouette teleported and appeared 100 miles away from Su Fong. It was Grandmother Executioner. She finally couldn't hold herself back and was about to attack Su Fong. Master said that there were some rats spying on us. So, it's Grandmother Executioner. I wonder who else is there? Su Fong calmed down immediately after his initial shock. Grandmother Executioner looked at Su Fong with resentment. Su Fong, you didn't expect that you'd fall into my hands one day, did you? Su Fong said calmly, I didn't think about that, but I've always remembered the grudge of you hunting me down. I dare not forget it. Grandmother Executioner praised. You're a peerless genius indeed. You can still be so calm when you're about to die. Still, that can't change your fate. Su Fong said indifferently. You can't decide my fate, Su Fong. Only I can control my own fate. As he spoke, the energy of advancement within Su Fong's body calmed down, and it meant that he'd finished his advancement and become a true Tao Lord. Even though his advancement had ended, Su Fong's body was completely empty, and it would take a very long time for him to attain a normal state at the lower Tao Lord realm. Even then, Su Fong was facing a formidable elder from the three supreme mysterious sects, yet he still revealed an extraordinary aura that didn't match his age. I wonder if you're putting on an empty show of strength or if you're really fearless. Even if you really do possess some sort of formidable trump card, why would I fear you? If your sixth extreme Tao, Saint Dharma body was still present, then I would be slightly fearful. But now, we're in a place that the Jiuquan laws can't cover. So, how will you go against me? Grandmother Executioner roared complacently with laughter. Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. I can go against you even if I don't have the sixth extreme Tao, Saint Dharma body. No, I should be able to suppress you. It just so happens that I've used up all my blood pigs during my advancement. So, I'll use you as a blood pig. You're much more formidable than Yi Feibai's subordinates. Grandmother Executioner raised her white brows. Blood pig. Su Fong revealed a cold smile. By chance, I've fused with a Skypiercer bloodvine seed. It can devour a cultivator's cultivation and vitality, so I've fused with it. I've reared some experts who were shackled, and they're the blood pigs that I speak of. Aunt, you're actually thinking of using me as your cultivation tool? Arrogant. You're truly arrogant to the extreme. Grandmother Executioner was furious as a thought swept through the sky. In an instant, Su Fong and the space around him were shackled, and a shocking shackle swept toward Su Fong. Bang! A strand of slaughter aura exploded out and shattered Grandmother Executioner's will, and the spatial divine might dispersed along with it. Su Fong's blood-ferocious avatar had already reached the level of the God Lord of bloody slaughter. Although he consumed a lot of blood-ferocious avatar, Su Fong had the 9-pattern blood-ferocious pill and countless blood-ferocious stones. In a short period of time, his blood-ferocious avatar had recovered a little and was preparing for this attack. Then, Su Fong flipped his right hand, and a rune appeared in his palm. This rune was activated by Su Fong, and a pungent smell of alcohol exploded out. It released a shocking power that could intoxicate one's will. You actually have such a powerful rune. That's a rune condensed from the Wine Sage's will. Grandmother Executioner's eyes were filled with fear. The Wine Sage was a Tao Saint expert, and even the Grand Elder of the three supreme mysterious sects had to be obedient when he saw the Wine Sage. This showed how terrifying the Wine Sage's strength was. How shocking would the might of the talisman condensed from his thoughts be? Grandmother Executioner looked like she was drunk. Her wrinkled face instantly turned red, and her breath was filled with the smell of alcohol. When she was about to use her divine art to escape, she was shocked to find that she was as if she had been drugged by wine. Not only her physical body and dharmakaya, but even her primordial spirit and consciousness had started to become dizzy, let alone condensing thoughts and using divine art. However, Grandmother Executioner was an elder of the three supreme mysterious sects after all. Her strength surpassed an ordinary mystical world realm lord, and she was still struggling under the power of the rune. I've said earlier, your fate is to become my Su Fong's blood pig. Su Fong emitted an icy cold and desolate voice. The blood-ferocious avatar released a ray of sword chi of massacre, and it directly attacked Grandmother Executioner's Tao heart. Grandmother Executioner was already at the end of her rope. When she was attacked by the sword chi of massacre, her Tao heart and consciousness were instantly lost. Her eyes quickly became blurred, and she completely lost consciousness like a drunkard. Su Fong made a grabbing motion in the air and pulled the executioner grandmother into the Tao Palace. Just like that, a powerful elder of the three supreme mysterious sects was reduced to Su Fong's cultivation material. Ling Xingqian, who was watching Su Fong from afar, originally wanted to suppress Su Fong. However, Grandmother Executioner beat him to it. Hence, he decided to take advantage of the situation and wanted to suppress both Su Fong and Grandmother Executioner. Little did he know, Su Fong easily suppressed Grandmother Executioner with the rune. This surprised and shocked Ling Xingqian, and at the same time, he was extremely glad. If he had charged over just now, he would be the unlucky one. Chapter 2849. Heartpiercer Blood King Vine's mother and Hai Danyang were both shocked by Su Fong's suppression and treated as a bloody pig by Su Fong. At the same time, they were secretly glad that Su Fong actually has the Wine Saint's rune talisman and is so ruthless. He actually suppressed an elder of the three supreme profound sects and used her as a cultivation material. I don't believe that you still have the Wine Saint's rune talisman. What if he still has it? If you fall into his hands. Hai Danyang hesitated. Hai Danyang shuddered at the thought of falling into Su Fong's hands and becoming a bloody pig. The Heaven-Piercer Blood King Vine's mother was also hesitating. If it was at its peak, it would not be afraid even if the Wine Saint himself was here, let alone the Wine Saint's rune talisman. However, its vitality was greatly damaged, and its current strength was not even comparable to Heartpiercer's. How would it dare to take the risk to kill Su Fong? How can I let him go just like that? After a moment of hesitation, the Heaven-Piercer Blood King Vine's mother was ready to test Su Fong. Suddenly, Su Fong took out another rune talisman. It was exactly the same as the one used to suppress Heartpiercer Blood King Vine. There are a few rats who try to take advantage of Su Fong's misfortune. Do they think I don't know? Su Fong sneered and released his perfect sensing ability. At the same time, he used the Heaven Secret Life shrinking technique to project his sensing ability in all directions. Damn it, he still has that kind of rune talisman. The Heaven-Piercer Blood King Vine's mother was so frightened that its body trembled. Ling Xingqian's body immediately turned into streaks of blood and quickly seeped into the void, disappearing without a trace. In fact, its current location was far beyond Su Fong's sensing range. However, it was really frightened by the Wine Saint's rune talisman. QL11 Hai Danyang was also frightened. He hid in the void and restrained his aura to the extreme. Su Fong didn't sense anything. He still had a sneer on his face and put away the rune talisman. He sat cross-legged in the air and swallowed pills and spiritual items to recover as if there was no one around him. He looked fearless. After 3 months, Su Fong wantonly devoured the cultivation of new blood pigs through the Heaven-Piercing Blood King Rot Tan and recovered a portion of his strength. After that, he flew away slowly and unhurriedly. More than 3 hours after Su Fong left, Hai Danyang flashed out of nothingness. Looking in the direction of Su Fong's departure, Hai Danyang frowned. Suddenly, Hai Danyang looked into the distance, and a thought flashed through his mind. He shouted, "Who is it? Come out." In a flash, Hai Danyang's thought landed in the chaotic void tens of millions of miles away, erupting with a spatial tremor. A figure staggered out from the void. It was Ling Xingqian. Ling Xingqian, it's you." Hai Danyang was surprised. He did not expect that the one hiding in the dark would be a disciple of the three supreme mysterious sects. His current identity was an elder of the three supreme mysterious sects. Ling Xingqian had recently become famous. After Su Fong on the Heaven's Chosen Divine list, he naturally recognized him. Hai Danyang shouted coldly, "Ling Xingqian, why are you hiding here?" Ling Xingqian flew over and cupped his fists towards Hai Danyang. This disciple just happened to pass by. Why is Elder here? Is that so? Hai Dongyang's eyes flashed with sharpness. He instigated Grandma Zhu Xian to come and kill Su Fong. In the end, Grandma Zhu Xian was suppressed by Su Fong. If this matter were to spread, not only would he be an elder of the three supreme mysterious sects, but his original identity would also be exposed. Ling Xingchen stared at Hai Dongyang with a sneer on his face. This kid must be hiding a big secret. Hai Dongyang's heart skipped a beat. He actually sensed a dangerous aura from Ling Xingchen's body, which made him somewhat fearful. Hai Dongyang immediately dispelled the idea of killing him. He nodded and said, "The finals of the Jiushuan Heaven's chosen Blood Valley are around the corner. You should quickly return to Wudao City and prepare for the finals. I didn't see what happened earlier. You shouldn't have seen it either, right?" Ling Xingchen returned to the appearance of a disciple of the three supreme mysterious sects. He cupped his fists and bowed. This disciple was just passing by. Naturally, this disciple doesn't know what happened earlier. Very good. Hai Dongyang nodded and flew away. Ling Xingchen snorted. You actually want to kill me to silence me. If it wasn't for the fact that I haven't recovered, how could you still be alive? 4 hours after Ling Xingchen left, a peach leaf floated out of the void and burned to ashes. Then, a figure appeared. It was Su Fong who had returned. Although Su Fong knew that there were other enemies hiding in the dark apart from Executioner Granny, he naturally felt uneasy if he didn't figure out who the enemy was. Therefore, Su Fong consumed a one-leaf concealment talisman and quietly returned. As expected, he discovered the hidden enemy. However, he didn't expect that the hidden enemy was actually Ling Xingchen and an elder of the three supreme mysterious sects. There's a big problem with that, Ling Xingchen. Also, why does Elder Hai of the three supreme mysterious sects want to kill me? Su Fong figured out who the enemy was, but he couldn't figure out the reason. After thinking for a while, he couldn't figure out anything. Su Fong didn't think too much about it and took out the flaming cloud flying carriage. The Peach Soul Sky crossing vessel was destroyed during the tribulation. He could only use the flaming cloud flying carriage now. In the past, he felt that the flaming cloud flying carriage was extremely swift. However, it was as slow as a snail when compared to the Peach Soul Sky crossing vessel. When he came here, Su Fong had merely used a few years of time. Now, he'd used 1,000 years to activate the flaming cloud flying carriage. The gap between the two Xian Bao was obvious from this. Su Fong didn't waste these 1,000 years of time. He relied on medicinal pills and spirit treasures to finally recover his Jiushuan Dao Palace and body that had been empty from his advancement. However, it was still far from the normal state of the Dao Lord realm. After he returned to Sky City, Su Fong made arrangements with his subordinates before heading straight to Dao Lord City. He didn't head to the Merchant Association's abode, and he directly went to look for the Dao Lord Sect's master instead and proposed to cultivate in the Dao Lord Sect's Dao grounds. The Dao Lord Sect's master was trying his best to express goodwill to Su Fong, yet he hadn't been able to find an opportunity. Now that Su Fong had raised such a request, he naturally agreed readily. Unexpectedly, however, Su Fong proposed to stay in Dongxian Jun's Dao Palace, and his attitude was extremely firm. The Dao Lord Sect's master weighed the pros and cons. In the end, he decided that he'd rather offend the Heaven Pavilion disciples than offend Su Fong. Thus, he brought Su Fong to Dongxian Jun's Dao Palace. "Young Master Dongxian Jun, please show yourself." The Dao Lord Sect's master transmitted his nascent spirit when they arrived at Dongxian Jun's Dao Palace. Dongxian Jun passed through the Dao Palace's barrier and came out. The arrival of Su Fong and the Dao Lord Sect's master surprised him. His heart suddenly sank as he knew that he'd been exposed. The Dao Lord Sect's master revealed his intentions. Dongxian Jun was instantly enraged. "Su Fong, you've gone too far." "Gone too far?" Su Fong looked at Dongxian Jun with disdain and sneered. "During the elite competition, you ordered Blackheart, Old Monster, and Ghost King Sect to attack my Square Sky City. What's this for?" Only then did the Dao Lord Sect's master know Su Fong's intentions. Although he didn't say anything, he scoffed at Dongxian Jun in his heart. Using such a method to take revenge on Su Fong, you're really courting death. Dongxian Jun refused to admit it. Su Fong, you want to take revenge on me, yet you've come up with such a lame excuse. Do you think the Heaven Pavilion disciples are easy to bully? Su Fong shouted domineeringly. I've already suppressed Blackheart Old Monster, and Ghost King sect has already submitted to me. You still want to quibble? Last time, you instigated Yi Fei Bai to kill my subordinates and ruin my Dao companion's appearance. I destroyed your 5-element sword physique. This time, you ordered Blackheart Old Monster and Ghost King sect to attack Square Sky City. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Dong Xianjun knew that this matter would be difficult to resolve. He shouted loudly, Lord Exalted Venerable Spring and Autumn, Su Fong wants to kill me. Please uphold justice for me. He had no choice. Last time, Su Fong destroyed a Dharma body in front of everyone. This time, he had no choice but to call for help. As a Heaven Pavilion disciple, he had completely lost face. However, what else could he do if he didn't call for help? Losing face was better than losing his life. Dong Xianjun's voice spread throughout the Dao Lord sect's dojo with the help of divine power. It immediately alerted all the cultivators living in the dojo. There were geniuses from the Heaven Pavilion, and there were also geniuses from other forces. Hearing that Su Fong and Dong Xianjun were in conflict again, everyone rushed over. Whoosh, a thought flashed, and it turned into the shadow of the Exalted Venerable Spring and Autumn. The Exalted Venerable Spring and Autumn looked down at Su Fong and said coldly, Su Fong, even if you're at the top of the heavenly chosen list, you can't be so arrogant in front of the Heaven Pavilion disciples. Su Fong slowly explained the whole story of the matter. Many geniuses, including the Heaven Pavilion's geniuses and Dong Xianlai, looked at Dong Xianjun with disdain and contempt. Even the Exalted Venerable Spring and Autumn was furious. Dong Xianjun, you idiot. You can't even handle such a small matter. Su Fong has something on you. Let's see how you're going to resolve it this time. Su Fong looked furious. Do you think a Heaven Pavilion disciple can be so unscrupulous? Even if Lord Tuo Qianji finds out about this, I'm still in the right. The Exalted Venerable Spring and Autumn asked, since Fong Tian City didn't suffer any damage, what do you think about letting Dong Xianjun apologize to you? Su Fong said, I, Su Fong, am not an unforgiving person. You destroyed Dong Xianjun's Dharma body last time, and now you're here to denounce us. You call this not being an unforgiving person? The spectating geniuses were all speechless. Su Fong continued, as long as Dong Xianjun apologizes to me and shows me satisfactory sincerity, I won't make things difficult for him anymore. Everyone suddenly came to a realization. It turned out that Su Fong had come to settle scores and extort benefits. Dong Xianjun was a Heaven Pavilion disciple after all, and a top-ranked genius at that. Su Fong couldn't kill him in front of everyone. Su Fong had used up almost all the high-grade resources when he was going through the tribulation. He might as well take the opportunity to extort some money from Dong Xianjun. There would be plenty of opportunities to kill him in the future. Dong Xianjun gritted his teeth and said, how can I show my sincerity? Chapter 2850. Su Fong sighed. Square Sky City has suffered a great loss this time. Great loss? Blackheart Patriarch and Ghost King sect couldn't even break through Square Sky City's defense. At most, Square Sky City only lost some energy to maintain the formation. How could it be great loss? QL11 Su Fong continued. I, Su Fong, am not a calculated person. Dong Xianjun, just give me 10 million upper-grade pills. 10 million upper-grade pills. Although Dong Xianjun had expected Su Fong to ask for an exorbitant price, he didn't expect Su Fong to ask for so much. He was so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out. Dong Xianjun snorted. Su Fong, what's the difference between you and those robbers who kill people for their treasures? Su Fong said, how many divine stones have been used to defend Square Sky City? There are also casualties. It's a matter of life and death. You can't even take out 10 million upper-grade pills? Fine, I'll take a step back. 80 million upper-grade pills, no less. Exalted Master Spring Autumn raised his eyebrows. Dong Xianjun can't take out so many pills at once. Su Fong, don't push me too far. 1 million upper grade pills. Take it as compensation. Su Fong, you should know when to stop. Su Fong hesitated for a moment and said, 1 million upper grade pills may be a little, but since it's exalted master Spring Autumn himself, how can I not agree? But I have a request. It must be settled in one go. No delay. Dong Xinjun had no choice but to agree. 1 million upper grade pills wasn't a small amount. With Dong Xinjun's status, it was difficult for him to take out so many pills at once. However, he didn't dare to disobey exalted master Spring Autumn's order. In the end, he borrowed money from other Heaven Court disciples and gave them to Su Fong. Now we're even. Dong Xinjun, if you still want to give me pills, you're welcome to attack Square Sky City again. Su Fong took the pills and laughed. Dong Xinjun staggered, almost losing control. Dong Xinjun, I want your dojo. You can find another cave abode. Then, Su Fong did not stand on ceremony and openly entered Dong Xinjun's temporary residence. Dong Xinjun, with this lesson in mind, don't provoke the Su Fong in the future. If something like this happens again, I won't bother with it anymore. Exalted Senior Spring and Autumn's thoughts dissipated, turning into divine light and disappearing. Many geniuses looked at Dong Xinjun with eyes full of sympathy and disdain, which hurt Dong Xinjun's heart once again. Su Fong, you deserve to die, Dong Xinjun gritted his teeth. After everyone left, Dong Xinjun left with a heart full of humiliation and anger. Hai Dongyang. Dong Xinjun took out a rune talisman and transmitted his essence spirit's thoughts. After a long while, Hai Dongyang finally responded. Su Fong has the rune talisman personally condensed by the wine sage. If you wanted to deal with him, what's the difference between that and sending myself to my death? It's hard for me to do this. Even if you expose my identity, I won't take the risk to kill Su Fong again. The wine sage's rune talisman. Dong Xinjun's expression changed instantly, and he had to suppress the thought of taking revenge on Su Fong. Su Fong stayed in the Taoist sect's palace. In order to please Su Fong, the Taoist sect's sect master took out the Taoist sect's supreme Xian Bao, the Xianlang Grotto Heaven, for Su Fong to cultivate. The Xianlang Grotto Heaven was a supreme Xian Bao specifically for cultivators to cultivate. It could freeze time. Cultivating for a month inside was equivalent to 1 day outside. It was an amazing spatial treasure that could save several times the cultivation time. The Xianlang Grotto Heaven was somewhat similar to the cultivation space inside the Peach Soul Skycrossing ship. Moreover, it did not need to consume too many divine stones and energy, unlike the Peach Soul Skycrossing ship. With such a Xian Bao, the Taoist sect master would not take it out for others to use except for his own cultivation. Now that he had taken it out for Su Fong to use, it was clearly to express goodwill to Su Fong. Su Fong naturally accepted the Taoist sect master's goodwill. Obtaining 1 million supreme-grade peak elixirs from Dong Xinjun could be considered to have solved Su Fong's urgent need. The Lord Tribulation, this time, had almost exhausted all of his resources. Now, he was no longer poor. Su Fong was sitting cross-legged inside the Xianlang Grotto Heaven, preparing for the Blood Valley Finals. A storage ring in the Jiushuan Grotto Heaven suddenly vibrated. It was the storage ring that Xian Daozu had left in Su Fong's Jiushuan Grotto Heaven. Because Su Fong had become a Tao Lord, another spatial seal in the internal space had been unlocked. This was equivalent to the reward that Su Fong had received for becoming a Tao Lord. Su Fong was surprised and delighted. He hurriedly peeled off a thought and entered the storage ring's internal space. He found that there were 10,000 more elixirs in the storage ring. They were the same ancient elixirs as before, but the quality had improved a lot. They were all supreme-grade peak ancient elixirs. Looking at these elixirs, Su Fong could not help but smile bitterly. Master, can you change it up and give me some Xian Bao or other resources? Xian Daozu's voice sounded in his mind. Master can only give you these most basic cultivation resources. The Xian Bao and resources that you want. The finals of the Jiushuan Blood Valley are near. There will be many geniuses from other god domains coming to the Blood Valley, as well as experts from the Demon Clan. They do not lack treasures. At that time, you can directly snatch them from their hands. He did not expect that the great Shi Xiandaozu would ask his disciples to snatch other cultivators' resources and treasures. Su Fong smiled bitterly and helplessly. After that, Su Fong devoured the elixirs and Xian Bao's cultivation and vitality. He strived to attain the normal state of a Dao Lord before the finals of the Blood Valley. All the subordinates that had suppressed Yi Fei Bai in the past had been completely devoured by Su Fong during his tribulation. However, an even more formidable Xian Bao had appeared now, and it was the Heartbreaker Granny. With such a formidable Xian Bao and Xianlang paradise, Su Fong was confident that he could stabilize his cultivation at the normal state of a Dao Lord before the finals of the Blood Valley began. It was even possible for him to advance to the peak of the Dao Lord realm. While Su Fong was preparing with all his might for the finals of the Jiuquan Blood Valley, the other geniuses were going all out as well. They hoped to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat during the finals. However, it wasn't so easy to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat besides the geniuses of Dongxian. There were also the peerless geniuses from other god domains and the formidable Big Goblin from the Demon Clan. At that time, the competition would be even more brutal. A major incident had occurred in the Three Sovereign Profound sect. A formidable elder had gone missing for no reason. Grand Elder Chang's son was furious, and he ordered all the cultivators of the sect in the heaven-forsaken desolation region to search for her with all their might. However, they were naturally unable to find a trace of the Heartbreaker Granny, and the matter was left unsettled in the end. Central Profound Divine Region. There was an exquisite and luxurious palace within an independent space created by supreme ability. Within the palace, over a dozen enchanting women of foreign races were singing and dancing. Over 20 young geniuses were tasting fine wine brewed from rare and precious treasures as they enjoyed the singing and dancing. All of these young geniuses possessed extraordinary auras and carried the aura of a ruler. They were the peerless geniuses from the 5 great clans of the Central Profound Divine Region. A white-clothed young man walked in from outside the palace and sat down on an empty seat. He raised his wine cup and drained it in a single gulp, and the space between his slanted brows revealed an expression of rage. A young man in a red robe that sat at the center of the main seat asked, "Yi Fei Xuan, what has made you so angry?" The white-clothed young man waved his hand and threw the wine cup in his hand, smashing it into the head of a foreign race dancer in the middle of the dance floor. The dancer's head was immediately smashed into pieces, and blood splattered everywhere. The other dancers trembled in fear and knelt on the ground one after another. The red-robed young man waved his hand, and the dancers hurriedly fled the palace. The white-clothed young man said angrily, "My younger brother, Yi Fei Bai, was participating in the Jiuquan Heavenly Selection in the Eastern Profound Divine Region, but he was killed in the Blood Valley. The cultivators of the Eastern Profound Divine Region are actually so arrogant that they even dare to kill a descendant of the Yi clan. Yi Fei Bai's strength is extraordinary. Unless it was a disciple of the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion, who could have killed him? Yi Fei Bai is a disciple of the 5 great clans of Middle Profound Divine Region. If he died in Dongxian, the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion should at least give an explanation, right?" The other young men voiced their opinions. Yi Fei Xuan said, "The Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion said that Yi Fei Bai died in the mouth of the blood monster in the Blood Valley. However, according to my clan's investigation, the cause of his death is strange. It's related to a genius from a low-level universe." An ant from a low-level universe? The group of young elites could not help but laugh. No matter who killed Yi Fei Bai, I will never let them go. Even those country bumpkins from Dongxian, my Yi clan will teach them a lesson. Yi Fei Xuan's eyes shone with a domineering aura. Then, he said loudly, "My younger brother's death must be avenged. Therefore, I have decided to enter the Eastern Profound Blood Valley in the finals. Who is willing to hunt the Eastern Profound Blood Valley with me?" Yi Fei Xuan. There was a moment of silence in the palace. The red-robed young man shook his head and said, other than the top two direct disciples of the Daozu in the Eastern Profound Divine region. There are no other powerful figures. One of them is in West Profound while the other is in South Profound. This reputed one has no interest in wasting time on the Eastern Profound Blood Valley. What's the point of competing with a bunch of country bumpkins? Not interested. You, Yi Fei Xuan, can sweep the Eastern Profound Blood Valley alone. Do you still need our help? Most of the geniuses of the 5 divine families looked disinterested. In their eyes, other than Middle Profound, the other divine regions were remote and desolate. The geniuses of the other divine regions were all country bumpkins in their eyes. They were not worth their time. Just as Yi Fei Xuan was feeling disappointed, a tall and muscular young man laughed and said, Yi Fei Xuan, this reputed one will accompany you to the Eastern Profound Divine region. When the time comes, we will take the first place of the Eastern Profound Divine region's heavenly chosen list and trample all the geniuses of Dongxian under our feet. The time for the finals of the Zhoushuan's heavenly chosen trials was approaching. Su Fang had also ended his secluded cultivation. The time spent in seclusion this time was extremely long. Cultivating in the Xianlang paradise added up to more than 200,000 years. So much so that when Su Fang walked out of the dark treasure space, he had a feeling that it was a lifetime ago. After such a long period of cultivation, not only had Su Fang's cultivation base stabilized to the normal state of a lower Dao Lord, it had also reached the peak of the lower Dao Lord level as he had expected. In other words, there was still some distance before he could break through to the intermediate Dao Lord level. Chapter 28:51. After ascending to Taoist Lord and going through 200,000 years of secluded cultivation, Su Fang's overall strength had taken a qualitative leap. Chaos was boundless, without beginning or end. This was the Tao of heaven, the entire world. A cultivator's cultivation was to constantly explore and seek the truth of the great Tao from the chaos where there was nothing and everything at the same time. The 3 realms of Taoist Lord, and Taoist Lord were major stages for a cultivator to understand chaos and step into the palace of cultivation. At this stage, what one came into contact with was merely the surface of the great Tao. One could only follow the path taken by their predecessors, constantly exploring and cultivating according to the rules set by their seniors. The Jiushuan Wuji scripture that Su Fang cultivated was a scripture bestowed by the heavens, a supreme cultivation method that could reach the truth of the great Tao. Therefore, after entering the Taoist Lord realm, Su Fang's realm in the great Tao had already surpassed the limits of ordinary Taoist lords. It was just that his cultivation foundation was not as good as those experts who had surpassed Taoist lords. As his strength increased, Su Fang was filled with confidence for the upcoming finals of the Blood Valley. Su Fang stopped cultivating and focused on accompanying his father, Su Yaotian, Xuanxin, and other family members, as well as his friends like Luo, Qingyu, and Bai Ling. Reuniting with his family and friends made Su Fang's state of mind more stable and calm. About 300 years later, countless cultivators in Taoist City looked up at the sky. The number of cultivators who came to Taoist City to watch the finals of the Jiushuan Blood Valley this time was far less than the elite competition. However, the top experts of Dongxian were currently gathered in Taoist City. There were even rumors that a consciousness of Dongxian Daozu had descended to Taoist City to watch the finals. Swoosh! A crimson light flashed out of the void, passing through the powerful boundary outside Taoist City and enveloping the entire city in an instant. QL11 then, an incomparably powerful consciousness descended, filling Taoist City with a shocking murderous aura as if it had fallen into a world of slaughter. Tuo Qianji's figure appeared in the air and spoke in a majestic voice. 10,000 winners of the elite competition, show yourselves. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Figures flew up from Taoist City and came to Tuo Qianji, cupping their fists and bowing to him. Greetings, my lord. Tuo Qianji nodded. His gaze swept over the 10,000 cultivators as he spoke. Blood Valley is connected to the training grounds of other divine realms in the finals. So the rules of the finals are set by the organizers of Geoshuans chosen this time. Even I don't know the specific rules now, so I will not be any more to you all. The cultivators were into the crowd his. Su Fong, who was in the crowd, frowned. Even Tuo Qianji doesn't know the rules of the finals? Calm Taoist Lord. Taoist was a word. Although I don't know the rules of the finals, I roughly know the contents of the finals. The finals are different from the elimination rounds and the elite competition. Apart from the 10,000 geniuses, your opponents are also geniuses from other divine realms, experts from the demon race, and the various tests in the Blood Valley. The probability of death in the elimination round is 1%, the probability of death in the elite competition is 10%, and I estimate that the probability of death in the finals is 30%. Tuo Qianji's words made the participants heave a sigh of relief. A 30% probability of death wasn't low, but which of the geniuses who could win the elite competition wasn't a powerful figure? Among these 10,000 participants, even the most ordinary of them were the top geniuses of their respective profound worlds. The most powerful of them were the top geniuses of the entire Eastern profound divine domain. Every one of them was very confident, and none of them believed that they would be one of the unfortunate 30% who would die. Little did they know, Tuo Qianji suddenly changed the topic. Although the probability of death is only 30%, the probability of having one's Tao heart and will collapse in the finals is no less than 50%. The others will more or less suffer some injuries. Apart from Dong Xianlai and other top geniuses, the rest of the participants had their divine light changed instantly. This also meant that only 10% of the participants would be able to pass the finals unscathed. Although a shattered Tao heart wouldn't be fatal, it was very difficult to recover, and it would affect one's future cultivation. These 10,000 participants were all geniuses with great prospects. If their future cultivation was affected, it would be more painful than death. Tuo Qianji snorted coldly. Are you all afraid? The greater the risk, the greater the opportunity and fortune. Even the disciples of Heaven Pavilion don't have such treatment if they want to safely obtain fortune, reputation, and status. Some of the cultivators looked ashamed. Su Fong nodded inwardly. Tuo Qianji was right. There was no such thing as a free lunch falling from the sky. Any opportunity and fortune had to depend on one's own efforts. It was the same for the disciples of Heaven Pavilion. Although they were of noble status and looked impressive, they had secretly sacrificed 10 times, no, 100 times more than ordinary cultivators. For example, Dongxian Shu, the peerless genius who was ranked second in East Profound Pavilion, was the direct disciple of Dongxian Daozu. His status was extremely noble, but his strength had been obtained through countless adventures and experiences. It was said that after the demon world was invaded by the foreign tribes, Dongxian Shu had snuck into the demon world alone to investigate the foreign tribes' movements. He had narrowly escaped death before escaping back to the southern Xian divine domain. Such a person could not become Dongshuan's top genius by relying on Heaven Pavilion's nurturing, cultivation methods, or resources. I just said that the greater the risk, the greater the opportunity. The finals of the Blood Valley are also a rare opportunity for all of you. As for what kind of opportunity it is, you will naturally know when you enter the Blood Valley. Tuo Qianji spoke slowly, lifting the spirits of many cultivators. In addition to the opportunity to obtain fortune in the Blood Valley, Heaven Pavilion has also decided that those who enter the top 1,000 in the finals can enter Heaven Pavilion to cultivate, and can also choose 3 treasures from Heaven Pavilion's treasury. Whoa! Before Tuo Qianji could finish his words, the cultivators were in an uproar, instantly excited. Su Fong's eyes were also shining brightly. Choose 3 treasures from Heaven Pavilion's treasury. In order to cultivate the pregnant heavenly Tao core and help Goddess Luo's early resurrection, Su Fong had been searching for all kinds of spiritual items to cultivate the pregnant heavenly Tao core. East Profound Pavilion was the supreme force that dominated the Eastern Xian divine domain. How extraordinary would the treasures in Heaven Pavilion's treasury be? When the time came, it would be easy to gather the 3 spiritual items to cultivate the pregnant heavenly Tao core. For these 3 spiritual items, Su Fong would fight his way into the top 1,000 no matter what. Tua Qianji said in a low voice, "Geniuses of Dongxian, this finals not only concerns your future, but also Dongshuan's honor. Work hard. Lord Daozu is watching all of you. Do not disappoint Lord Daozu." Jiushuan's Blood Valley Finals of Heaven's Chosen begin. As soon as his voice fell, the crimson Xian Guang surged, forming a spiraling vortex of bloodlight. The 10,000 cultivators were sucked into the vortex and soon disappeared without a trace. The chosen god list in the sky above Daoless City became blank again. The names of the competitors no longer appeared. Instead, a world of bloody light was displayed. The inner world of the Blood Valley was displayed through the chosen god list, allowing the people outside to clearly see the entire process of the finals. Whoosh! 10,000 participants appeared in the inner space of the Blood Valley. Most of the participants were still immersed in the discomfort of the spatial teleportation. Su Fong only felt a wave of dizziness before he recovered. He looked over. The current environment of the Blood Valley was very different from the first time Su Fong had entered in the time of the elite competition. Not far from where the participants had appeared, there was a giant peak that was 100,000 feet high. How shocking was the height of 100,000 feet? Not only was the height shocking, but the entire giant peak seemed to be condensed from blood. The shocking killing intent and boundless pressure made the participants almost suffocate. Around the giant peak was a vast and flat plain. There were grasslands, forests, rivers, and even life. At the end of the crimson sky, there was a mysterious door that emitted a bloody light. That was the passage that connected the Blood Valley to the training grounds of the other divine domains. Could the finals of the Blood Valley be a competition to climb that bloody mountain? Su Fong thought to himself. Most of the other cultivators had the same guess. Suddenly, what's the point of competing with the cultivators of the Eastern Xian divine domain? It's better to go to the other divine domains and kill them vigorously. That's more satisfying. A wild laugh sounded. Then, 3 figures flew up into the sky and headed straight for the mysterious door at the end of the crimson sky. The shackles around the bloody mountain were so shocking that ordinary Daoist cultivators would find it difficult to fly. These 3 participants could fly at such speed, which showed how shocking their strength was. They were the 3 great disciples of the Eastern Profound Pavilion, Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Xianyang, and Dongxian Qingwei. They actually planned to leave the Blood Valley and head to the training grounds of the other divine domains to compete with the true geniuses. Dongxian Hui Huang hesitated for a moment, but eventually gave up on the idea of going to the other divine domains. Then, he glared fiercely at Su Fong before looking at Ling Xingchen and thinking to himself, if my Dao heart wasn't injured in the elite competition, if I could get the divine blood-refined mastiff, I'll definitely trample on you 2 in the finals. As long as I have the chance, I'll definitely kill both of you. Gu Qianqi was also hesitating, but eventually dismissed the idea like Dongxian Huiwang. Obviously, he wasn't very confident in his own strength. Going to the other divine domains and competing with the geniuses of the other divine domains was impressive, but the danger level was also multiplied. After all, the training grounds of the various divine domains had completely different environments. Cultivators from other divine domains would naturally be at a disadvantage. Chapter 2852. After Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Xianyang, and Dongxian Qingwei left the Blood Valley, there was no movement for a long time. Many of the participating cultivators sat cross-legged under the Blood Mountain, quietly waiting for the finals to begin. 3 days later, whoosh, a silhouette flashed out of the celestial door at the end of the sky. It was a youth dressed in purple, with sharp brows and bright eyes. He looked extraordinarily handsome, and no one knew which divine domain he was from. After the youth appeared, he looked down at the Blood Valley from the sky and the Eastern Xian divine domain participants. Disdain flashed in his deep eyes before he slowly descended, landing outside the crowd of Dongxian cultivators. Not long after, another 4 silhouettes passed through the celestial door and came to the Blood Valley. These foreign cultivators dared to come to the Blood Valley, so they were obviously the true geniuses of other divine domains. Each of them had an air of superiority, and their gazes towards the Dongxian cultivators were filled with disdain. Ha ha ha! I can finally eat to my heart's content this time. It's been a long time since I've tasted the only path of human cultivators. I'm so hungry. Another silhouette appeared from the celestial door, his arrogant laughter echoing in the sky and reverberating in the Blood Valley. It was a youth of the Yao race who had transformed into a human. He was tall and mighty, and his upper body was bare, revealing a body of green scales. His appearance could be considered normal, but there was a pair of horns on his head. His triangular eyes emitted a cold and sinister light. Just a glance from him would make one's hair stand on end. It felt like a frog being stared at by a poisonous snake. The youth of the Yao race flew over from the sky with a gust of demonic wind, circling above the Dongxian cultivators. His cold and vast aura made the cultivators on the ground tremble. What an arrogant and domineering Yao expert! How can a big goblin like you be so arrogant in the Eastern Xian divine domain? Dongxian Hui Huang was enraged, releasing a thought that turned into a long river of yin and yang, sweeping towards the Yao youth. Is this the strength of Dongxian cultivators? The youth of the Yao race sneered in disdain, suddenly opening his mouth to suck in the river of yin and yang. Dongxian Hui Huang immediately sensed that the will in the river of yin and yang formed by his thoughts was torn to shreds. The Taoist, rhyme, and arcane energy within crumbled as well. Then, the Yao youth directly sucked the yin-yang river in his mouth, as if he had eaten some great tonic. He stuck out his blood-red tongue and licked the corner of his mouth. The Dongxian cultivators were all shocked and aghast. Dongxian Hui Huang was one of the top geniuses in the Eastern profound divine domain. After the elite tournament, he was ranked 4th on the heavenly chosen divine ranking. Although his Taoist heart was injured by Su Fang's blood evil Dharmakaya in the elite competition, with his status, he could naturally get elixirs or spiritual items to recover his Taoist heart. After 10,000 years, he had recovered more than half. Dongxian Heavenly Pavilion's top 3 disciples had left the Blood Valley. Dongxian Splendid's ability was definitely at the pinnacle. Who would have thought that his furious attack would be swallowed by the monster youth? It was clear how powerful this monster youth was. So, it's a heaven-devouring divine python. No wonder you're so arrogant. Although you're powerful, you don't have the qualifications to be arrogant in the Eastern profound divine domain. Dongxian Hui Huang sneered in disdain. Dozens of thoughts surged out from his glabella as he was about to unleash a powerful attack on the demonic youth. Suddenly, a cold and old voice rang out. Before the finals begin, no fighting is allowed. Otherwise, you will be disqualified from the competition. This voice did not come from Tuo Qianji, nor was it the will of the Blood Valley. It came from Jiuxuan's heavenly law. It turned out that the supreme existence of the Jiuxuan divine domain had used the Jiuxuan's heavenly law to preside over the finals of the Blood Valley. The training grounds of the other divine domains were no exception. As the voice echoed, the supreme will envelop Dongxian Hui Huang and the demonic youth. The thoughts that Dongxian Hui Huang had just released were instantly shattered into nothingness. He staggered and almost fell. Under the terrifying pressure of the will, the demonic youth could not fly and fell to the ground, smashing a hole in the ground. Although he was not injured, he was in a sorry state. No one knew what the higher-ups of the Jiuxuan divine domain were thinking when they agreed to let demonic cultivators participate in the Jiuxuan divine selection of the Jiuxuan divine domain. However, this did not mean that the higher-ups of the Jiuxuan divine domain would indulge the demonic cultivators. The demonic youth's unbridled arrogance had displeased the expert who presided over the finals of the Blood Valley, so he had taken him down a notch. The demonic youth crawled out of the hole, embarrassed and angry, but he did not dare say anything. He glanced at Dongxian Huiwang and the other Dongxian cultivators with resentment before sitting down cross-legged on the ground. Another 5 days passed. 2 silhouettes flashed out of the profound door. One was a youth in white, while the other was a tall and muscular youth. Their auras were much more powerful than those of the other divine domain cultivators who had come to the Blood Valley previously. They were comparable to the masters of the mystic world. The two of them flew above the crowd of cultivators. The white-robed youth swept his gaze across the crowd of Eastern profound divine domain cultivators with a disdainful gaze. Then he shouted in a domineering tone, "Who is Su Fong? Come out." It turned out that the 2 youths had come for Su Fong. "Su Fong, your retribution has finally come. Let's see how long you can remain arrogant in the face of the Middle Xian Yi clan's revenge." Dong Xianjun looked at Su Fong, his eyes filled with delight. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Almost all of the Dongxian cultivators looked at Su Fong. Su Fong looked up at the youth in white and said casually, "I am Su Fong, but I won't scram. Why don't you scram and let me learn from you?" "You are Su Fong?" The youth in white glanced at Su Fong. Boom! An illusion appeared before Su Fong's eyes. Countless branches and vines gathered together to form an ocean. They swept towards him wildly, wanting to devour his heart of Tao. Scram! Su Fong exploded with a murderous intent. Chi! 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 Su Fong's Crimson Fury avatar had reached the level of the Divine Lord of Sanguinity. Moreover, this was the Crimson Valley, so the murderous intent released by him was shocking. It instantly crushed the pressure released by the youth in white. The Divine Lord of Sanguinity is indeed not simple. The youth in white snorted coldly. QL11, just as he was about to continue attacking Su Fong, a warning from the Zhoushuan heavenly law rang in his mind. He had no choice but to give up. The youth in white stared at Su Fong and said coldly, "This seat is from the Middle Xian Yi clan. Yi Fei Bai is this seat's younger brother. Remember this seat's name. The person who killed you is Yi Fei Xuan." The Middle Xian Yi clan? The cultivators of the Eastern Xian divine realm exclaimed in shock. The 5 contestants from the other god realms, including the incomparably arrogant young man from the demon clan, all had a slight change in their expressions as they looked at Yi Fei Xuan with fear in their eyes. Su Fong did not move. Yi Fei Bai died at the mouth of the blood monster because he was not strong enough. "What does that have to do with me, Su Fong?" Yi Fei Xuan said murderously, "No matter how my younger brother died, as long as this seat knows that you have a grudge against him, then you deserve to die." Su Fong snorted coldly. "Anyone who has a grudge against Yi Fei Bai deserves to die? The Middle Xian Yi clan is really domineering. What kind of status does my younger brother have? What does an ant like you count as? It's your fortune to use your life as a sacrifice to my younger brother's soul," Yi Fei Xuan said coldly. Then his cold and domineering gaze swept across the Eastern Xian Divine Realm cultivators, and he said in a majestic voice, "This seat's younger brother died in the Blood Valley. This seat has come to the Eastern Xian Divine Realm to seek an explanation for him. This seat will step on your heads and take the Dongxian Blood Valley's final as a sacrifice to Yi Fei Bai. If the rules allow it, this seat doesn't mind bathing this Blood Valley in blood with brotherly sheng." The Dongxian cultivators were furious. Dongxian Huiwang, Gu Tianxi, and the others were furious as well. The tall youth beside Yi Fei Xuan said domineeringly, "This seat is Li Sheng from the Middle Xianli clan. Since Yi Fei Xuan has taken a liking to the Dongxian Blood Valley's first place, this seat can only settle for second place and play with it." Arrogant, ignorant fool, how dare you look down on our Dongxian cultivators? This is too much. So what if they are the Middle Xian Divine Realm's 5 divine clans? Kill them all. The Dongxian cultivators chided loudly. Yi Fei Xuan and Li Sheng landed on the ground calmly and sat cross-legged outside the crowd of Dongxian cultivators. No other cultivators appeared from the Xian sect in the following days. The authoritative and aged voice from before rang out once more. The finals of the Zhoushuan Blood Valley of Heaven's Chosen will now begin. This seat announces the rules as follows. Up until now, Most of the participants were still unaware of the rules of the finals. Naturally, they had to listen attentively. Only Yi Fei Xuan, Li Sheng, and the Yao youth did not seem to care at all. It was as if the finals of the Dongxian Blood Valley were just a game to them. No matter what the rules were, they would not care about anything. The Blood Mountain you see is a mountain refined from a foreign clan's expert named Slaughter, killed by Dongxian Daozu. That's why it's called Slaughter Mountain. The finals of the Dongxian Blood Valley this time is to climb Slaughter Mountain. Many of the participating cultivators looked as if they had expected this. The Jiushuan expert who had not shown himself continued. It's just a simple climb of Slaughter Mountain. As for the competition, this seat will announce it when you are qualified to enter the mountain. We need to be qualified to climb Slaughter Mountain? The crowd was puzzled. Before entering Slaughter Mountain, you must obtain a mountaineering token in this space of the Blood Valley. Now, this seat will tell you how to obtain one. The Jiushuan expert spoke slowly. In a vast space around Slaughter Mountain, there were many humans and foreign clans. However, they were all mortals and ordinary foreign clans. This was not surprising. There were many natives living in the Blood Valley. The lifespan of cultivators was long, while the lifespan of mortals was very short. Every time a cultivator cultivated in seclusion, the mortal world would experience the rise and fall of several civilizations. Therefore, in this space of the Blood Valley, there was a mortal world. There were countries and tribes built by humans, big and small, no more and no less. There were exactly 10,008 countries and tribes. Chapter 28:53. There are a total of 10,008 contestants. Each of you will merge your thoughts with the totems of a nation or tribe, becoming the totems of these mortal nations or tribes. However, your thoughts cannot unleash any of your cultivator's abilities. You can only use your own wisdom to help these mortals and let them search for the mountain tokens. The mountain tokens are in the hands of the other tribes. The blood monsters, spiritual objects, mines, and other places in the Blood Valley may have the tokens. You can only obtain the mountain tokens with the help of these mortals. The words of the 9 profound realm expert who was presiding over the finals of the Blood Valley caused some of the participating cultivators to be stunned and puzzled, some to be confused, and some to reveal a thoughtful expression. Su Fong raised his brows and thought to himself, there are 10,000 Dongxian cultivators and 8 contestants from other divine realms in the Yao race. There are a total of 10,008 lives. Each contestant happens to control a nation or tribe. Of course, this is not a coincidence. The organizers of Jiushuan's heavenly selection have long prepared for this. The nations and tribes in the Blood Valley's dimension would not be so coincidental. This was a deliberate arrangement by the higher-ups of Jiushuan to stop the Jiushuan's heavenly selection. Even if there were additional nations or tribes, a portion of these nations and tribes would be wiped out in a short period of time to make up a total of 10,008. That's not right. Dong Xinlai and the other top 3 disciples of Tiange have already left the Blood Valley. There should only be 10,005 contestants now. What is the purpose of the additional 3 nations and tribes? Su Fong was puzzled. After some thought, he quickly understood the organizers' intentions. Without the help of the totems, the additional 3 nations and tribes would definitely be swallowed up by the other nations and tribes. This also meant that mortal nations and tribes could swallow and kill each other to strengthen their own forces. Su Fong thought about it again and thought of something deeper. Searching for the mountain tokens doesn't seem to be so simple. The organizers of Jiushuan's heavenly selection must have a deeper purpose for painstakingly designing such a method to search for the mountain tokens. The time limit for searching for the mountain tokens is 1,000 years. As for how to obtain the tokens, there are no restrictions. There's another rule. There are only 5,000 mountaineering tokens in the entire Blood Valley. Once the time limit is up, those who have obtained a mountaineering token will not be able to continue in the finals and will be directly eliminated. That dignified and aged voice continued to resound, and it instantly caused a commotion. There were more than 10,000 participants, but there were only 5,000 mountaineering tokens. With just this one condition, half of the participants had been eliminated. The real finals had yet to begin, but half of them had already been eliminated. It could be seen how cruel the finals were. Furthermore, the quality of the mountain ascension token is also different. There are 3 grades in total. The completion of the mission will determine the quality of the mountain ascension token. The quality of the mountaineering token will play an important role in the process of breaking through Slaughter Mountain. The higher the quality of the token, the easier it will be to break through. Now, I announce that the finals of the Jiuquan Blood Valley have officially begun. Each contestant release a thought. Following the instructions of the powerhouse, the contestants release their thoughts. Su Fang also released his thoughts. Few, blood red, Xian Guang enveloped the contestants' thoughts and instantly disappeared without a trace. The contestants' original bodies remained at the foot of Slaughter Mountain and were shackled by the will of the Blood Valley. Although they could connect with their thoughts, their original bodies could not leave. The Divine Crow Tribe. The entire tribe was holding a grand ceremony to worship their totem, the Divine Crow. More than 1,000 naked mortals were kneeling devoutly in front of a 3-meter-tall statue of a blood-red crow, praying that the totem divine beast could bestow them great power so that the tribe could continue to exist. The atmosphere was solemn and solemn. Suddenly, a child who was only 7 or 8 years old suddenly pointed at the totem statue and exclaimed, "The totem is alive. The statue has opened its eyes." The child's father was scared out of his wits and slapped the child until he burst into tears. "Hey, the totem statue has really opened its eyes. Could it be that the divine beast has manifested?" Everyone found that the divine crow totem had really opened its eyes and was looking at them coldly. Therefore, everyone was pleasantly surprised and in awe. They all kowtowed to the totem divine beast. Of course, the statue was not really manifested. It was just a thought of Su Fang. Now that it had merged with the statue, the people of the Divine Crow Tribe thought that it was the totem that had manifested. In fact, with Su Fang's current strength, even if it was just a thought, it was many times more powerful than the Divine Crow worshipped by the Divine Crow Tribe. Unfortunately, Su Fang could only transmit his primordial spirit's thoughts and could not display any of his strength. Su Fang sensed it and could not help but feel helpless. Obviously, his luck was not good this time. He had become the totem of a weak tribe, and it was a crow. The Divine Crow Tribe, including men and women, old and young, only had a total of more than 1,000 people, and more than half of them were old and weak. Among the many countries and tribes, it was the weakest tribe. How can these mortals get the mountaineering token from the alien tribe? Su Fang smiled bitterly. Unfortunately, he was now merged with a statue and could not smile. "Get up." Su Fang transmitted his primordial spirit's thoughts to the people of the Divine Crow Tribe. Hearing the totem divine beast speak directly in their minds, the people of the Divine Crow Tribe were surprised and happy. They kowtowed to the statue again and again. Just like that, Su Fang became the totem of the Divine Crow Tribe. To be precise, it was a statue of a crow god. The organizers of Jiuquan's Heaven's Chosen set up such a test in the finals of the Blood Valley. Obviously, they have a deep meaning. What is the purpose of the Jiuquan's Heaven's Chosen? It is to select the true geniuses to prepare for the upcoming catastrophe. The Jiuquan experts select geniuses not only to cultivate peerless experts, but also to develop the power of the human race. The test of finding the mountaineering token is also to test the intelligence and ability of the participants. How to develop the power of the human race is the key to the test. Su Fang immediately saw through the true intention of the organizers of the Jiuquan's Heaven's Chosen. The other participants could not see through this point. In the eyes of those geniuses, mortals were ants. The mortals of the Blood Valley were even worse than ants. Who would really care about ants? The other participants at most treated these mortals as tools to help them find mountaineering tokens. No one would treat these Blood Valley natives as real people. Su Fang was different. He was born in a low-level universe and started as a mortal at the bottom of the Pongsong universe. He walked step by step until now. Most of his family and friends were ants in the eyes of the cultivators of the Jiuquan God realm. Therefore, in Su Fang's eyes, there was not much difference between mortals and cultivators. Only he could see through the true intentions of the organizers of the Joshuan's Heavens Chosen and grasp the key to this test. Finding the mountaineering token is the goal. How to help these mortals is the most important thing. Although I can't display any strength, I have an advantage that the other participants don't have. In the vast plains of the ancient Blue City, Su Fang had the experience of helping the Gao tribe. With the help of a formation, the Gao tribe, a mortal tribe, quickly increased their overall strength to the level of being able to kill cultivators. Now, Su Fang could use the same method to help the Divine Crow tribe quickly increase their overall strength. In this way, not only would he help this weak tribe, but he would also be able to easily obtain the mountaineering token. In addition, Su Fang had an ability that most of the other participants did not have, and that was alchemy. QL 1,000 years was enough to teach these mortals how to refine the blood demon pill. Of course, it was impossible for these mortals to refine the real silver-patterned blood demon pill. Being able to refine the most common medicine was enough to rapidly increase the overall strength of the Divine Crow tribe. After making the decision, Su Fang immediately gave orders to the Divine Crow tribe. He was now the totem divine beast of the Divine Crow tribe. Who dared to disobey his will? Su Fang first selected over 100 strong mortals of the Divine Crow tribe and taught them the Great Sky Splitting Formation. The Great Sky Splitting Formation was a formation that Su Fang deduced using the Heavens Divination mysterious solution. It used people to form the formation. Through standing and moving, it would cause minute fluctuations in the energy of heaven and earth. Through the fluctuations of heaven and earth energy, it would cause even greater vibrations. From there, it would release a powerful force that surpassed mortals. If the Gao tribe on the vast plains could master it, the mortals in the Blood Valley could also master it. After using 3 years, over 100 young mortals of the Divine Crow tribe finally mastered the Great Sky Splitting Formation. However, Su Fang let these young mortals go out of the tribe and search everywhere for the ingredients to refine the blood demon pill. After 5 years of searching and accumulating, the Divine Crow tribe had finally gathered all the ingredients needed to concoct the elixir. At the same time, under Su Fang's meticulous guidance, they had also cultivated 3 alchemists. Of course, they were not alchemists like the cultivators. After failing again and again, after 5 years, the 3 alchemists were finally able to refine the blood demon pill. Of course, it was not the real blood demon pill. It was not even as good as the dregs of the blood demon pill. However, to mortals, it was already a supreme spirit pill. Su Fang let those young tribesmen consume the blood demon pill to quickly increase their strength. Just like that, in a short span of 10 years, the overall strength of the Divine Crow tribe increased rapidly. Moreover, as the overall strength of the tribe increased, the survival ability of the Divine Crow tribe also increased. There were constantly people coming to join the tribe, causing the Divine Crow tribe to grow rapidly. The population broke through 10,000 people, and from the lowest tribe, it became a medium-sized tribe. At this time, Su Fang began to ask the Divine Crow tribe to search for the mountain pass, mainly to deal with the foreign races and blood monsters. Chapter 2854. Just as the Su Fang was helping the Divine Crow tribe grow stronger, the other contestants were also trying their best to find the token to ascend the mountain. Outside a dense forest, an army of 100,000 mortals was waiting. This army was well-equipped and disciplined. Furthermore, there were so many of them. It was impossible for an ordinary tribe to have such a powerful army. Next 1,000-man army, enter. Under the command of the army commander, a 1,000-man army entered the forest. Not long after the 1,000-man army entered the forest, miserable cries came from inside. It was obvious that they were attacked by the alien race. The forest was the alien race's territory. It was also a forbidden area for humans. Fighting with the alien race in the forest was no different from sending oneself to death. Hearing the miserable cries coming from the forest, the soldiers outside the forest revealed expressions of grief, anger, and despair. This army was from the Song Nation. The Song Nation was originally an extremely powerful nation. Although it was not a hegemon, it was still powerful for a period of time. It had a strong army and strong horses. The nation was rich and the people were strong. However, since the awakening of the Song Nation's totem several decades ago, the Song Nation had fallen into an endless calamity. Under the command of the totem's will, the Song Nation sent out its most elite army to launch endless attacks on the alien race in the forest. After several decades, the Song Nation had not only lost millions of soldiers, but the entire nation had also been dragged down. Its military power was rapidly declining, and the people had no way to make a living. However, no one could defy the totem's will. This was the destiny of the Song Nation. The result of defying the totem's will was death. In the past few decades, because they had refused the totem's command, the Song Nation had changed 3 emperors, 5 marshals, and more than 50 generals have been killed. The Song Nation's people could not understand why the totem they worshipped would attack the alien race in the forest so crazily. It did not care about the lives of the Song Nation's people. How could the Song Nation's people know that their totem needed the token to ascend the mountain? As for their lives, who would care about the lives of a group of ants? Similar to the Song Nation's people, the same scene was playing out in the mortal world. Under the command of the totem's will, nations and tribes of all sizes were madly attacking the alien race. The blood monsters were madly excavating mines and searching for spiritual items. However, there were exceptions. Ancient Qin Nation, one of the most powerful countries in the mortal world, was currently being attacked by 2 neighboring countries. These 2 neighboring countries were originally 2 very small countries. Ever since the awakening of the totem, they changed their names to the country of Yi and the country of Li respectively, and rapidly became powerful. The country of Yi modified the soldiers, refining them into strange peach wood puppets. Not only were they unafraid of death, but they were also almost immortal. Li Guo, on the other hand, trained his soldiers into metal puppet-like monsters. They were invincible and invincible. These 2 countries joined forces, and in just a few decades, they swept away the surrounding countries and tribes, quickly rising to become 2 powerful countries. What was strange was that every time the Yi and Li kingdoms destroyed a country or tribe, they didn't rush to plunder or kill. Instead, the first thing they did was to destroy the other party's totem idol. This time, the 2 countries joined forces to attack the ancient Qin state again. They attacked all the way and besieged the capital of the ancient Qin state. 3 months after the attack, the capital fell. The armies of Yi and Li kingdoms occupied the capital. Even the most important place of the ancient Qin state, the totem shrine, was conquered. The totem idol of the ancient Qin state suddenly spoke with a spiritual voice that mortals couldn't hear. Yi Fei Xuan, Li Sheng, why are you attacking my country instead of attacking the alien race and looking for the mountaineering token? The soldiers of Yi and Li kingdoms parted like the tide and then knelt on the ground respectfully. Dozens of soldiers carried the 2 idols into the shrine. One of the peachwood idols had a domineering gaze as it transmitted its spiritual message to the totem idol of the ancient Qin state. Dong Xianjun, I didn't expect the totem of the ancient Qin state to be you. It then chuckled coldly. I want to annihilate all the countries and tribes. I want to extinguish the thoughts of all Dongxian participants so that none of you can get the mountaineering token. I want to humiliate the entire Eastern Xian divine realm. Dong Xianjun, as a disciple of the Heaven Pavilion, of course I won't let you go. Dong Xianjun quickly said, Yi Fei Xuan, when your younger brother Yi Fei Bai was in Dongxian, I had an extraordinary relationship with him. Let me go this time. I, Dong Xianjun, will remember this favor. In order to shock the world in this final and wash away the humiliation that Su Fong had brought him, he had made ample preparations. Previously, he had used the ability of the Calamity Dharma body to support his thoughts, which was how he became the totem of the powerful ancient Qin state. Dong Xianjun had planned to easily find the mountaineering token with the ancient Qin state's power, then find a way to find the totem idol that Su Fong's thoughts resided in and kill it, which was equivalent to ending the finals of the Su Fong. Who would have thought that man's plans would be inferior to the plans of the heavens? His neighbors were actually Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng from the central profound divine realm. Moreover, these two people were so savage and domineering. Their abilities were also so extraordinary, allowing the Yi country and Li country to rise rapidly and even destroying the ancient Qin country. Unlucky. Dong Xinjun could only admit that he was unlucky. Is that so? Dong Xinjun's words made Yi Feishuan snort. From what I know, it was you who instigated my younger brother to deal with Su Fong, which provoked the enmity between the two of them and led to Yi Feibai's death. Do you think I will let you go? Yi Feishuan said coldly. Then he sent a supreme will to the soldiers, burn the totem idol of the ancient Qin state. The soldiers of the Yi state surged forward and burned the idol that Dong Xinjun's thoughts resided in to ashes. Dong Xinjun's thoughts were also shattered. At the foot of Slaughter Mountain, many participants were sitting cross-legged on the ground, using the thoughts that resided in the totem idols to control the mortals to find the mountaineering token. Ah! A scream suddenly rang out, followed by a figure that was sitting cross-legged on the ground. Whoosh! A wave of spatial distortion wrapped around the figure and sent him out of the Blood Valley. This meant that this cultivator had lost the qualification to continue the competition. Dong Xinjun. Dong Xinjun has been eliminated. A dignified disciple of the Heaven Pavilion and a genius disciple ranked in the top 20 is actually so useless. He didn't even touch the edge of the finals and was directly eliminated. The other participants were alarmed and distracted to take a look. They didn't expect that the one who was eliminated was Dong Xinjun. Everyone was shocked and stunned. At the same time, they also realized the cruelty of the finals of the Blood Valley. They didn't dare to have the slightest bit of luck and focused all their energy on finding the mountaineering token. A mortal tribe. This was originally an extremely powerful mortal tribe with a population of more than 100,000. However, at this moment, there was no sign of life in the tribe. It was dead silent. Inside the totem palace in the central area of the tribe, all the way to the square outside, there were white bones everywhere. More than 100,000 mortals, none of them survived. They all died here. In the totem palace, a statue was enshrined. It was a coiled green python. The statue originally didn't have any life, but at this moment, the green scales on the body of the python statue were flashing with a cold luster and faintly emitting a demonic aura. Crack, crack, crack. The body of the python statue actually began to squirm and separate from the base of the statue. Finally, its body completely stretched out and turned into a giant green python more than 200 feet long. I swallowed the life and blood of 100,000 mortals and finally cultivated this demonic body. Although it's a little weak in this mortal world, who could be my opponent? It turned out that this python statue was merged with the demonic youth's thoughts. The other cultivators used their wills to control the mortals to find the mountaineering token, but the demonic youth actually swallowed the mortals under his protection and cultivated a demonic body with the demonic race's forbidden technique. When I devour all the mortals in the mortal world and destroy all the totems, those human cultivators will all be eliminated. In this way, only I will be left in the finals of the Blood Valley of Dongxian. Who can compete with me for first place? Ha ha! The python let out a strange and sinister laugh. Its demonic body twisted and set off a demonic wind. It flashed out of the totem palace. Time flew by. 500 years passed. The countries and tribes in the mortal world, some declined rapidly and even perished while some rose rapidly. The Divine Crow tribe was one of them. After 500 years of development, the Divine Crow tribe now had more than 1 million people. It had long become a top tribe, and its overall strength had even surpassed most of the countries. In the Divine Crow tribe, there was a Divine Crow army. Although there were only 5,000 of them, they were extremely powerful. Not only were they invincible against humans, but they were also almost invincible against the foreign races and blood monsters. QL-11, the Divine Crow Tribe's strength, was not only limited to these. With the help of the Blood Demon Pill, the physique of the mortals in the Divine Crow Tribe was constantly changing. Moreover, the Divine Crow Totem had also created a cultivation system for these mortals to cultivate, causing many cultivators to appear in the tribe. Although these cultivators were still far from the true Tao realm, they were much stronger than mortals, and their lifespans were several times longer than mortals. In addition, after 500 years of cultivation, the tribe had cultivated a large number of alchemists, blacksmiths, and array masters. A new cultivation civilization was slowly forming in the Divine Crow Tribe. As time passed, it would definitely become prosperous and powerful in the entire mortal world. With the powerful strength of the Divine Crow Tribe, they had almost wiped out the foreign races and blood monsters in the surrounding area. Within a radius of 10,000 miles, not a single foreign race or blood monster could be found. Su Fong had also found the mountaineering token as he wished. The strange thing was that ever since he had obtained the mountaineering token, although he had killed countless foreign races and blood monsters and obtained many spiritual items, he had not encountered another mountaineering token. Su Fong speculated that each participant could only obtain one mountaineering token at most. However, the time limit for finding the mountaineering token was 1,000 years. Before the time limit was up, the Jiuquan expert hosting the finals would not announce the end of the competition. Thus, the matter was not over yet. Since he had obtained the mountaineering token, Su Fong was not in a hurry. He calmed down and focused on cultivating the Divine Crow Tribe. In the beginning, Su Fong was not much different from the other participants. They all wanted to use these mortals. As time went by, Su Fong's Divine Crow Totem had won the respect of the Divine Crow Tribe from the bottom of their hearts. At the same time, Su Fong also had feelings for the Divine Crow Tribe. At this moment, the Divine Crow Tribe was like a child that he had carefully raised. Chapter 2855. In fact, Su Fong knew very well that the humans living in the Blood Valley were just tools for the strong. Their lives were too short and too insignificant. Their fates had long been determined. Their lives and fates were not in their control. However, this did not change Su Fong's determination to help them. In Su Fong's heart, no matter how lowly an ant was, they still had the right to live. All he could do was try his best to help them become stronger and survive. On this day, Su Fong suddenly transmitted his primordial spirit. Soon, the white-haired chief of the Shinya tribe rushed to the temple and bowed to Su Fong respectfully. Lord Totem suddenly summoned me. What orders do you have for me? Su Fong looked at the chief of the Shinya tribe and could not help but sigh. He had watched this white-haired chief grow up. Now, he was already an old man. Su Fong could not help but sigh at how short and fragile life was. Pass down the order. Get ready. An enemy is about to attack. Su Fong said in the chief's mind. An enemy? The chief of the Shinya tribe suddenly became nervous. Su Fong's eyes were filled with disdain. Don't panic. It's just a little loach and a group of flies. Tell the tribe to get ready. Don't panic. Yes. After the chief of the Shinya tribe bowed to Su Fong, he quickly made arrangements. Half an hour later, a dark cloud swept over from the sky. When it flew closer, the people of the Divine Crow Tribe realized that it wasn't a black cloud, but a huge green python that was 100 feet long. It had a bunch of wings and was surrounded by demonic aura. It looked like a black cloud rolling over. When the green python flew to the city of the Shinya tribe, its terrifying demonic chi shrouded the area, causing the people of the Shinya tribe to panic. What are you afraid of? With the Shinya totem here, the little loach can't do much. The chief of the Shinya tribe's majestic voice spread through the city with the help of the array. When he mentioned the Shinya totem, the people of the Shinya tribe immediately quieted down. The green python was furious and roared like thunder. Little loach, how dare you look down on me like this? I will devour all of you and smash your totems. And they can actually refine the totem statues into clones. The demon race actually has such a remarkable ability. Su Fang's totem god statue was carried by the people of the divine Crow tribe and appeared on the city wall. With a single glance, he could tell that the thought of the demon clan youth resided in the green python's body. It was not a possession, but a clone cultivated by a forbidden technique. Moreover, the strength of this clone had already reached the height of the true path realm. He could not help but be surprised. The demon youth transmitted his primordial spirit over. You are the cultivator who offended the central profound divine regions, ye clan. It's your misfortune to have met me. I will eat up all the mortals under your protection and personally end your qualification for the Blood Valley Finals. I've long heard that the demons of the demon realm are arrogant by nature. Now that I've seen it with my own eyes, I can see that the rumors are true. I have cultivated a supreme clone. In these years, I have destroyed hundreds of mortal countries and tribes. I have devoured no less than 10 million mortals. Right now, my clone's strength is comparable to the true path realm of you humans. I can sweep across the mortal world. Who can be my opponent? Su Fang's killing intent instantly became dense. It seems that you also deserve to die. Just killing your clone is not enough to repay the lives of the humans that you have devoured. Therefore, I will not kill you this time. After entering the Slaughter Mountain, I will definitely kill your true body. Arrogant, too arrogant. This is the first time I've seen a human cultivator who is more arrogant than me. Fine, this time I'll kill the mortals under your protection first and leave your totem statue behind. When we enter the Slaughter Mountain, I'll make you wish you were dead. The green python roared and was about to attack the divine Crow tribe. Suddenly, a thunderous sound of horse hooves came from afar. A fierce, murderous aura and dust rose into the air. There was actually an army that was charging towards the divine Crow tribe. There are actually people who came to die. Fine, I will just devour all of you. The green python gave up the idea of attacking the divine Crow tribe. It floated in the air and waited for the army. After 2 hours, the army of 100,000 arrived. The army of Yi and Li country. The green python's eyes were filled with fear. In the entire mortal world of the Blood Valley, other than a powerful country called the Brilliant Empire, the army of Yi and Li country was the strongest. The green python had tried to attack Yi and Li country before, but it had to give up in the end. This was also its only experience of failure. The people of the divine Crow tribe in the city were also in an uproar. Everyone's eyes were filled with respect and fear. As the divine Crow tribe continued to grow, they had the strength to go to other human countries. Naturally, they knew about the powerful Yi and Li countries. Moreover, these two countries were the most warlike countries. In the past 500 years, they had destroyed more than 1,000 countries and tribes. They did not expect that the army of the two countries would come to the divine Crow tribe at this time. With the addition of a powerful demon python, the divine Crow tribe was in danger. The army stopped 10 miles away from the city of the divine Crow tribe. Then, they pushed out 2 totems from the army. Su Fang, it is indeed you. I have finally found you. Yi Feishuan's voice came from the peach with totems of Yi country. Li Sheng also transmitted his divine sense. Yi Feishuan, you have to think carefully about how to deal with Su Fang. If you kill him in one go, it will be too boring. Don't worry. For him, I specially came from the central profound divine domain to the eastern profound Blood Valley. How can I let him die so easily? Yi Feishuan said indifferently. Then he transmitted his divine sense to Su Fang. Su Fang, kneel down before me. I can stop the demon python from attacking your tribe. I can also guarantee that you will get the mountain pass and enter Slaughter Mountain smoothly. Su Fang replied, you should be eager to kill me. Why are you helping me instead? If you don't even have the qualifications to enter Slaughter Mountain, wouldn't that be a pity? I will help you enter Slaughter Mountain. Then, I will have the chance to torture you. Yi Feishuan's divine sense voice was full of supreme dominance and coldness. QL 11-inch I, Su Fang, have seen many arrogant and domineering geniuses like you. They tried to step on my head, but in the end, I stepped on their heads, and they became the stepping stone for the rise of my Su Fang. If you, Yi Feishuan, want to step on my head, then you should be prepared to become my stepping stone. I already knew that you were a madman. Sure enough, You are not an ordinary madman. Fine, I don't want you to be eliminated so quickly. I am obliged to help you once. Yi Feishuan scoffed at Su Fong's words. Then he transmitted his divine sense to the green python. Su Fong is mine. You can't touch him. The green python laughed in disdain. Yi Feishuan, you rely on your identity. Those weak human cultivators are afraid of you, but I am not. Who do you think you are? How dare you point fingers in front of me? I will destroy your totem statue. The green python roared, stirring up a demonic wind and pouncing towards the Yi and Li armies. Kill this demonic python. Yi Feishuan ordered the Yi and Li armies with his divine sense. From the Yi and Li armies, 5,000 soldiers each charged out. They were not ordinary soldiers. The Yi soldiers looked like they were made of flesh and blood, but in fact, they were like puppets carved out of wood. They looked like they had lost their self-awareness. The Li soldiers, on the other hand, looked like they were made of steel. Like the Yi soldiers, although they still had life, they were all lifeless zombies with lifeless eyes. When Su Fong saw this scene, his eyes were cold. Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng were so cruel. They refined mortals into puppets and ordered them around. They simply regarded these lives as grass. Chi, chi, chi. The Yi soldiers drew their bows and shot arrows. Peachwood arrows rained down on the green python. The wooden arrows were obviously smeared with poison and emitted a fishy smell. The Li soldiers threw out metal spears. Thousands of spears formed a metal forest that was unstoppable. The green python's wings stirred up a demonic wind, sweeping away the wooden arrows and metal spears. At this moment, the green python's strength had reached the level of a Daojian cultivator. No matter how strong the attacks of mortals were, it was difficult for them to get close to it. The green python killed its way into the 10,000 soldiers. These soldiers were modified by Yi Feibai and Li Sheng using the Yi and Li clan's secret techniques. Although they were not as strong as the Jiushuan cultivators, they had strong vitality and defense. Their attacks were also very fierce. The green python fought with the 10,000 soldiers. Although it killed many of them, it was also injured under the soldiers' frenzied attacks. Many of its scales fell off, and its demonic aura also weakened. Left with no choice, the green python had to escape from the ground and fly into the air. Now, the soldiers were unable to do anything to the green python. Yi Feishuan, since you don't allow me to attack Su Fong, I will destroy those mortals and destroy the totem statue that Su Fong lives in. The green python was completely enraged. It charged straight for the divine Crow Tribe city. Boom! A barrier quickly condensed around the city, releasing a faint blood-colored xianguang. It formed a strong defense and tightly protected the city. Impossible! How could a mortal create such an amazing enchantment? The green python came over aggressively and slammed into the enchantment. Boom, boom, boom. The barrier was shaken. The blood-colored xianguang suddenly darkened, and the entire city shook violently. Countless buildings in the city collapsed. Many of the divine Crow Tribe's tribesmen on the city walls were shaken to death by the terrifying impact of the collision. The green python was even more miserable. It was as though it had slammed into a huge mountain. Although the mountain was shaken, the green python was also shaken by the recoil. Its body, which was over 100 feet long, tumbled out and landed heavily in the middle of the army of Yi and Li country, killing or injuring countless soldiers. The entire army was thrown into chaos. Roar! The green python let out a roar filled with pain and anger. It soared into the sky from the chaos of the soldiers. Almost all of the scales on its body were shaken off. Its flesh was dripping with blood, and it kept gushing out from its body. Chapter 28:56. Su Fong transmitted his primordial spirit voice that was filled with mockery. I forgot to tell you that I am an array master. In the past 500 years, I have taught these mortals some simple array formations. Although the power is not much, it is easy to deal with a little loach like you and those flies. Despicable human. Humph. Even the array formation cannot save your life. Wait until I catch you. I will use demonic flames to refine this thought of yours. The green python flew to the front of the city and spat out a gust of demonic aura. It turned into a demonic wind whirlpool. As it whirled around, it released a shocking, devouring power. The barrier of the city began to tremble. Under the devouring power, it started to break. Divine Crow Army, go out and kill that loach. Su Fong ordered with his divine sense. A passage appeared in the barrier. 100 mortals of the divine Crow tribe passed through the array formation. These mortals were obviously different from the other mortals. Their bodies emitted a faint, bloodthirsty aura. They were actually a group of cultivators. Of course, they were not deity realm cultivators. They were cultivators among the mortals. Once the 100 divine Crow tribe cultivators appeared, they immediately ran out in a disorderly manner. A group of ants. It is not enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Are you guys trying to scare me by running? The green python laughed in disdain. The laughter was still echoing. Suddenly, a faint, bloodthirsty aura floated around those youths of the divine Crow tribe who were running wildly and changing their positions. These mortal cultivators were running wildly. They actually caused the energy in the space of the Blood Valley to fluctuate. Array formation. Using humans as an array formation to cause the energy of heaven and earth to fluctuate and form an array formation to attack. Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng exclaimed in surprise and shock. The bloodthirsty aura that the cultivators of the divine Crow tribe activated at the beginning was still very weak. Later on, it became denser and denser. It turned into rolling blood fog that soared into the sky and enveloped the green python. Boom, boom, boom. The power of the array formation was like a rolling snowball. It rapidly became stronger and stronger as it kept attacking the green python. Impossible. How can a group of mortals execute such a shocking attack? The wild laughter of the green python stopped abruptly and was replaced by shock and anger. How could this big goblin know that Su Fong's self-created sky-splitting array could not only fuse the power of mortal practitioners together, but could also cause the energy of heaven and earth to vibrate, thus achieving the effect of turning something rotten into something magical? A group of mortals could display a powerful strength that could kill a deity practitioner. This was because Su Fong did not want to expose all of their strength and did not want to waste the cultivation of the divine Crow tribe's cultivators. They only sent out 100 cultivators to perform the smallest scale sky-splitting array. In the divine Crow tribe, there was a total of 10,000 divine Crow soldiers. If the 10,000 soldiers of the heavenly Crow army were to use it at the same time, the power of the sky-splitting array would increase by 100 times, or even 10,000 times. Even a Dao Lord or a Dao Lord would be able to kill it, let alone this green python. Under the constant bombardment of the array formation, the green python's body was constantly being shattered, and its demonic chi was also being suppressed to the point of being on the verge of death. Seeing that it was about to be killed by the array formation, the green python suddenly burned its blood chi and burst out a demonic flame, causing an earth-shattering explosion and tearing a crack in the array formation. Then, the green python took the opportunity to escape from the range of the array formation. Looking at the green python again, its body had shrunk by half, and its body was badly mutilated. There were not many scales left, and one of its wings was almost broken. It was in a seriously injured state. Su Fong, let's meet again in Slaughter Mountain. The green python shouted angrily. Then, it did not dare to stay for a moment and flew away in a crooked manner. Cheers burst out in the city. The 100 over cultivators of the divine Crow tribe were also exhausted, and some of them even collapsed. However, they were all very excited. 100 mortal practitioners defeated an extremely powerful divine beast. In the eyes of mortals, the green python was a legendary divine beast that mortals could not defeat. Now, with the help of their divine crow totems, they actually defeated the divine beast and forced it to flee. How could they not be excited? Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng were also shocked. They never thought that the mortal practitioners trained by Su Fong would be so powerful. Compared with the mortal practitioners of the divine Crow tribe, The puppets that they refined with the secret techniques of the Yi clan and the Li clan could not be compared at all. 10,000 powerful puppets could not do anything to the green python. The 100 mortals of the divine crow tribe almost killed the green python. How could they compare? Li Sheng transmitted his primordial spirit to Yi Feishuan. Yi Feishuan, if we are defeated by an ant from a low-level universe, where will we put our face? Why don't we destroy the divine crow tribe? It's just a waste of some puppets, and we can just refine more. Yi Feishuan thought for a while and finally made a decision. Fine, let's show that ant some colors so that he won't be arrogant in front of us. But I want to kill him personally in Slaughter Mountain, so I can't destroy the totem statue. Li Sheng smiled and said, of course. If that kid is eliminated now, how can he play in Slaughter Mountain? He transmitted his primordial spirit, and 100,000 puppets from Yi and Li clans were ready to attack the city. After chasing away a little loach, this group of flies is here again. Let's destroy them all together with their totem statues. Su Fong transmitted his primordial spirit to the old patriarch of the divine crow tribe. 1,000 soldiers of the divine crow tribe quickly went out of the city and replaced the 100 people from before. Then, another army of 10,000 practitioners rushed out of the city. A great battle between mortals was about to begin. Suddenly, a dark cloud rolled over. It was actually the green python that had returned. Su Fong was surprised. Could it be that the green python was not afraid of death? Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng were also surprised. Who knew that the green python would fly over the city directly, ignoring the soldiers of the divine crow tribe and the Yi and the clans? After a while, rumble. Suddenly, a thunderous tremor came from the ground. The cities and mountains on the ground also shook. Looking from afar, a line of blood could be seen extending from the sky and the ground. It seemed to be moving very slowly, but it was actually moving very quickly. At first, it was just a line of blood, but it quickly turned into a shocking tide of blood covering the sky and the ground. Blood monsters, foreign races. What happened? Su Fong sensed that the blood tide was actually formed from countless xeno-race experts and blood monsters, and it was vast and mighty to the point it blotted out the sky. He couldn't help but fall into intense shock. All participants, listen up. A cold and dignified voice suddenly rang out from the sky, spreading throughout the entire Blood Valley. It was the Jiushuan expert who presided over the finals of the Jiushuan Blood Valley. The blood tide formed by the alien clan and the blood monsters will sweep across the entire mortal world. Your next task is to survive the blood tide and find a mountaineering token. When I announce the end, you will be qualified to enter Slaughter Mountain. If you can't get the mountaineering token, you fail. If the blood tide is destroyed by the blood monsters and the xeno-race experts, you fail. The voice of the Jiushuan expert reverberated in the Blood Valley. Only the participants could hear it, and they were all surprised and shocked. At the beginning, the participants thought that finding the mountaineering token would be a very easy task, but it was not as simple as they thought. Now, a blood tide suddenly appeared, which doubled the difficulty of the task. How could they not be surprised and shocked? QL11, if the finals were not held by the higher-ups of the Jiushuan God Realm, the participants would have cursed out loud. Let's go back to Yi and Li. Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng didn't have time to attack the Divine Crow tribe. They fled with the soldiers of the two countries. Su Fong also hurriedly ordered the practitioners of the Divine Crow tribe to return to the city quickly and activate the city's defense to the maximum. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, countless blood monsters and non-humankind beings swarmed over from the sky and on the ground like tidewater. The soldiers of Yi and Li didn't get far before the blood tide caught up with them. 1,000 soldiers protect the totem and leave. The rest stay here and stop the blood tide. Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng made a prompt decision. They ordered 1,000 elite soldiers to protect the totem and leave. The rest of the soldiers stayed behind to buy time for them. Boom, boom, boom. The blood tide crashed into the army of puppets, and almost 10,000 puppets were swallowed. The rest of the soldiers got into formation and blocked the blood tide, using their own lives to buy time for Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng to escape. The blood tide also crashed into the city of the Divine Crow tribe. It felt like the entire city was about to be overturned along with the barrier. The barrier shattered layer by layer, but it still managed to defend against the first wave of the blood tide. The crisis wasn't over yet. More and more blood tides, formed by the blood monsters and xenorace experts, swept over and crazily attacked the city's barrier. No matter how strong the barrier was, it couldn't stop such a shocking attack. Su Fong had no choice but to order the Divine Crow tribe to come out of the city to fight and relieve the pressure on the city's barrier. Groups of Divine Crow tribe cultivators came out of the array and started a fight with the blood monsters and xenorace experts outside the city. This time, Su Fong didn't use the Divine Crow army. The Divine Crow army was the last trump card of the Divine Crow tribe. No one knew how long the blood tide would last, and no one knew how powerful the blood monsters and xenorace experts would be. Hence, they couldn't use the Divine Crow army unless it was the last moment. Although they didn't have the Divine Crow army, the Divine Crow tribe's strong combat power was enough to resolve the crisis temporarily. Although there were many blood monsters and xenorace experts, they were still at the same level as mortals. The cultivators of the Divine Crow tribe were all mortals, but they were much stronger than normal mortals. Their weapons weren't normal weapons that mortals used. They were treasures that had been refined by blacksmiths and array masters. They were unparalleled in the mortal world. After a bloody battle, the blood tide attacking the Divine Crow tribe was finally defeated by the cultivators. Chapter 2857. The Divine Crow tribe and the armies of Yi and Li weren't the only ones who were attacked by the blood monsters and foreign races. The entire mortal world of the Blood Valley was affected as well. In the initial stages of the outbreak, 1/3 of the countries and tribes were swallowed by the blood tide. The other countries and tribes also suffered heavy losses. Dallas City. The Chosen God list in the air no longer displayed the rankings of the contestants. Instead, it displayed the scene that was currently happening in the mortal world of the entire Blood Valley space in front of everyone with incomparable clarity. Most people didn't think much of the outbreak of the blood tide. They even thought that the Jiuquan Chosen God's method of selection was child's play. In the eyes of the cultivators of the Eastern Xian Divine Realm, the mortals born in the Blood Valley were worse than ants. They didn't care if they died. With these mortals, what could they possibly test? As the blood tide continued to erupt, the cities and tribes of the human race were plundered by the foreign races and blood monsters. Everywhere they went, not even a blade of grass was left. Countless mortals were devoured by the blood monsters. Some were captured by the foreign races as slaves. Some women were used as playthings. The cruel scenes shocked everyone. At the same time, they felt the same way. If the foreign races invaded the human world, how would their fate be different from the mortals of the Blood Valley? In the blood tide, the mortals of the Blood Valley were all ants. In a catastrophe brought by the foreign races, how could the humans of the Jiuquan Divine Realm not be the same? Many experts and cultivators of the Eastern Xian Divine Realm finally understood why the Jiuquan experts had designed this test in the finals of the Blood Valley. This was a preview of the invasion of the human world by the foreign races. The foreign races had already conquered the demon realm and would invade the human world sooner or later. The higher-ups of the Jiuquan Divine Realm were using the blood tide in the Blood Valley to preview the invasion of the foreign races in the future. This was a warning to everyone. Of course, this wasn't the main goal. The main goal was to select the true geniuses. Through the blood tide, they could test the abilities of the participants. Time passed. The blood tide had calmed down, but it didn't mean that it was over. The mortal countries and tribes were still being attacked by the blood monsters and the other races. People were dying every second, and every once in a while, a country or tribe would be destroyed. There were also contestants who were eliminated because their totem statues were destroyed. The tribe that suffered the least losses was undoubtedly the Divine Crow tribe. From the outbreak of the blood tide until now, the entire Divine Crow tribe had less than 1,000 casualties. This number was practically negligible to a large tribe that had over 1 million people. Who is the totem of the Divine Crow tribe? He's actually so powerful to be able to develop the divine crow tribe from a small tribe of 1,000 people to such a powerful state in a mere 500 years. To be able to develop a cultivation civilization in a mortal world within 500 years. This person not only possesses extraordinary abilities, but also great wisdom. This time, the finals of the Blood Valley have yet to officially begin, but this person has already risen like a blazing sun. Extraordinary, very extraordinary. Even if this person is defeated in the finals of the Blood Valley, he will definitely be a peerless figure like an overlord in the future. The big shots of the Eastern profound divine domain, as well as countless cultivators, were discussing the totem of the divine crow tribe. Because they could only see the images through the heavenly chosen divine list, they couldn't hear the sounds and couldn't sense the consciousness of the divine crow tribe. Naturally, they didn't know that the totem of the divine crow tribe was Sufong. However, in the mortal world of the Blood Valley, Sufong wasn't the only one who had the most eye-catching performance. Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng from the Middle Profound Realm had fled back to the Yi and Li countries during the Blood Tide, and the two countries had also displayed great strength later on. At the same time, they had refined mortals into puppets. Such a ruthless and cruel method made the people outside the Blood Valley tremble in fear. The most eye-catching one was the Brilliant Empire. QL11, the Brilliant Empire's predecessor, was originally a small tribe. After 500 years of development, it had become the strongest force in the mortal world. Although the Brilliant Empire had suffered heavy losses in the Blood Tide this time, it had become the absolute main force in resisting the Blood Tide. It was also because of the Brilliant Empire that it had attracted the majority of the other races and blood fiends, that the mortal world hadn't been completely destroyed in the first round of the Blood Tide. Unlike the Yi and Li countries, the Brilliant Empire didn't rely solely on its strength to conquer. Instead, it relied on maneuvering, uniting other countries and tribes, and integrating the mortal forces to form such a powerful empire. It could be seen that the totem that controlled the Brilliant Empire had extraordinary leadership talent. That cultivator would definitely be a peerless overlord in the future. In fact, everyone had guessed that the totem that controlled the Brilliant Empire was Dongshuan's Brilliant Empire. As expected of the top geniuses of the Eastern Profound Pavilion, they can still shine brightly in the mortal world. Only the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion can nurture such a powerful person. Where did Sufong go? What about Ling Xingqian and Gu Tianqi? These geniuses' cultivation talent is indeed extraordinary, but in other aspects, they are far inferior to Dongshuan's Brilliant Empire. 100 years passed. The Blood Tide in the mortal world was still going on, dragging on for a long time. Although the Divine Crow Tribe had successfully repelled the attacks of the other races and the blood monsters time and time again, they were gradually exhausted and would be swallowed by the Blood Tide sooner or later. On this day, a team of messengers from the Brilliant Empire came to the Divine Crow Tribe, bringing the Brilliant Empire's totem's decree. All countries and tribes are to quickly migrate to the Brilliant Empire and unite all forces to resist the Blood Tide. The Brilliant Empire's totem also promised that any totem that united with the Brilliant Empire would receive a mountaineering token. Brilliant Empire? That should be the force that Dongshuan's Brilliant Empire established in the mortal world. After Sufong received the Brilliant Empire's decree, he decided to let the Divine Crow Tribe migrate to the Brilliant Empire after some consideration. Sufong speculated that this Blood Tide was the most severe test for all the contestants. It would definitely become more and more intense, and the Divine Crow Tribe wouldn't be able to hold on until the end. The only way was to unite all the mortal forces. Although the Divine Crow Tribe's strength was strong, it didn't have the great rallying power of the Brilliant Empire. They could only rely on the Brilliant Empire. Dongshuan's Brilliant Empire's ambition is not small. Once he unites all the mortal forces, the completion of the mission will be unparalleled. The mountaineering token will definitely be of the highest grade. Of course, Sufong was clear about Dongshuan's purpose. It wasn't to protect the entire mortal world, but for his own benefit. However, In order to help the divine Crow tribe survive the catastrophe, Su Fong had no choice but to unite. Therefore, the divine Crow tribe left the city and began to migrate to the brilliant empire. The divine Crow tribe was far away from the brilliant empire. In addition, the divine Crow tribe was migrating this time. The old, weak, sick, and disabled in the tribe were all together, so the speed of their progress was extremely slow. In addition, they were constantly attacked by other tribes and blood monsters along the way, encountering countless dangers along the way. About 200 years, other than the few cultivators in the divine Crow tribe, the tribesmen had been replaced for several generations. The only thing that hadn't changed was the divine Crow tribe's totem. All the tribesmen had a firm belief in their hearts. As long as the totem was still there, the divine Crow tribe would not perish. After 200 years of baptism, the population of the divine Crow tribe had sharply decreased by more than half, leaving only about 500,000 people. However, the overall strength of the divine Crow tribe had not decreased but increased instead. The cultivation civilization that Su Fong had created had taken root in the divine Crow tribe and was flourishing continuously. The cultivation system was constantly being perfected. Auxiliary cultivation skills, such as alchemy, artifact forging, and formations were improving day by day. The number of cultivators and practitioners exceeded half of the tribe's population. After a long journey, the divine Crow tribe finally arrived at the Brilliant Empire. The current Brilliant Empire had gathered almost all the countries and tribes in the mortal world. The number of mortals exceeded 1 billion. Dongxian Hui Huang had naturally become the supreme ruler of the entire Blood Valley's mortal world. Even Yifei Xuan, Li Sheng, the Yao Yu's clone, Green Python, Ling Xingqian, Gu Tianqi, and the others had to look up to Dongxian Hui Huang. Dongxian Hui Huang was very generous and did not suppress the tribes of these people. In fact, Dongxian Hui Huang had his own concerns. Dongxian Hui Huang was a genius of the Heaven Pavilion. It was impossible for him to eliminate all the other Eastern Xian cultivators like Yi Fei Xuan, Li Sheng, and the Yao Youth. The higher-ups of the Heaven Pavilion would never allow him to do so. Besides, even if he destroyed the totem idols of the other participants, they would only lose a strand of their consciousness. That was not what Dongxian Hui Huang wanted. What he wanted was to crush Su Fong with his true strength and sweep away the other geniuses, completely washing away the shame of the elite competition. Therefore, Dongxian Hui Huang decided to be generous for once and borrow the strength of others to fight against the blood tide. In this way, all the credit would belong to Dongxian Hui Huang, and he would naturally be valued by Dongxuan's higher-ups. When the 1,000 years were up, Dongxian Hui Huang's performance would be the most dazzling. Not only would he gain a great reputation, the quality of his mountaineering medallion would also be the highest. He would have a huge advantage when he entered Slaughter Mountain. The divine Crow tribe set up camp outside the huge city of the Brilliant Empire. A strand of consciousness transmitted over Su Fong. It was Dongxian Hui Huang. Su Fong, you didn't expect to be under my roof in the Jiushuan God's chosen competition, did you? You have to rely on me to survive. Dongxian Hui Huang was very proud that he had finally suppressed Su Fong. How could he not be proud? Su Fong replied indifferently. What do you want to say? As long as you cooperate with me, I won't use my power to suppress you and let you enter Slaughter Mountain successfully. Wait for me in Slaughter Mountain. I will let you die a horrible death. Dongxian Hui Huang sneered domineeringly. Then, his consciousness dissipated, never to appear again. Another 100 years passed. The 1,000-year time limit was approaching. Just when the participants thought that they had passed the time peacefully, the blood tide erupted again, its scale even more shocking than the first time. Countless foreign races and blood monsters converged towards the glorious empire from all directions like a tidal wave. Chapter 2858. All the mortals trembled and fell into a state of endless fear and despair when they saw the blood tide engulfing them from all directions. Even the totem statues of the various countries and tribes were trembling. In Dallas City, the scene that they saw through the heavenly chosen list shocked everyone, making them feel as if they were in the middle of it. In the face of such a terrifying catastrophe, the contestants could only control the mortals with their thoughts, unable to display their own strength. How could immortals resist? Blood Valley's final is really too difficult. The test is already so astonishing before entering Slaughter Mountain. How many people can enter the official finals? Everyone was shocked and cried out in alarm. Everyone, stay in your position and fight to the death. Once the 1,000-year time limit is up, there's no need to worry about the blood tide. Dongxuan's glorious voice transmitted to all the totems. Only then did the contestants manage to pull themselves together and issue orders to their countries and tribes to defend Glorious Empire's defense line with their lives. The real test has finally arrived. Su Fang's thoughts resided in the divine crow statue, looking at the blood tide rolling over with a solemn gaze. In order to deal with the blood tide, Glorious Empire had built a long defense line. Each country and tribe defended a section, and the Divine Crow tribe was arranged to be in the most dangerous position because its combat strength was the strongest. They had waited in fear for 3 months. The blood tide, which was composed of countless non-humankind beings and blood monsters, surged towards the defensive line like a real flood. Boom! Countless figures pounced on the defense line like raging waves crashing against the shore. Most of the foreign races did not look much different from humans, but they exuded an evil aura that blended with Blood Valley's aura. Their strength was 10 times stronger than mortals. What was even more terrifying was that the blood monsters were not only ferocious and terrifying, but also extremely difficult to kill. Although their strength was limited to the height of the mortal world, they were much stronger than mortals and foreign races. They could also devour life to become stronger. At this moment, the foreign races and blood monsters numbered in the trillions. It was impossible for there to be so many inside Blood Valley in the past. Obviously, the organizers of Jiuxuan's Heavenly Chosen had deliberately cultivated them over the years to test the contestants. At this moment, driven by Blood Valley's will, these foreign races and blood monsters had completely fallen into madness. They would not stop until the human race was completely annihilated. A bloody and desperate battle unfolded on the long defensive line. In Dallas City, the entire battle situation could be seen at a glance from the Chosen God list. The brilliant Empire's overall strength was undoubtedly the strongest. The main reason was that they had a large number of people, were well-trained, and had much better equipment than the other allied armies. Thus, the fighting strength they displayed was the strongest. Most of the human race's defensive line was supported by the brilliant Empire. In terms of individual strength, there was no doubt that the Green Python was stronger. The last time he was severely injured in the Divine Crow tribe, after so many years of recuperation, the Green Python had long recovered to its peak state. At this moment, relying on its powerful strength, it was displaying its might in the blood tide, sweeping in all directions, looking very awe-inspiring. The strength displayed by the state of Yi and the state of Li was also incomparably shocking. In the past few years, the number of puppet soldiers produced by the two countries had reached 1 million. Their combat power was extremely shocking, and they were especially eye-catching in the battle at the defensive line. Compared to the Yi country and the Li country, the Divine Crow tribe's current performance was not bad, but it was not as dazzling. It was obvious that they were conserving their strength. Dongxian is glorious. You are indeed a genius of Tiange, a talent of the Dongxian Divine Region. If the Dongxian Divine Region is really invaded by the foreign tribes, it looks like we can only rely on a peerless genius like Dongxuan's glory. Although Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng are extraordinary, their methods are too cruel. They are far inferior to Dongxuan's glory. Dongxuan's powerhouses were praising Dongxuan's glory. Many cultivators in Dallas City were also praising Dongxuan's brilliance. I thought that Su Fang would be able to shine brightly. I didn't expect him to be conserving his strength. He is so selfish, he won't be able to achieve anything great. Humans are afraid of comparison. Goods are afraid of comparison. I used to think that Su Fang was a powerful character. I didn't expect him to still be conserving his strength at the critical moment. It looks like Su Fong's so-called sacrifice to stop the foreign tribe's invasion and save Dongxuan's human race was probably a sham. Supreme Elder Chuan Xiu and Great Elder Zhang Sun took the opportunity to belittle Su Fong. Even the cultivators of the Forsaken Barren region, who used to see Su Fong as their savior, were rather critical of Su Fong's actions. The war continued. Every moment there were people dying. Some tribes' totem statues were even annihilated. In front of the defense line, corpses piled up like mountains. Some belonged to humans, some belonged to the foreign tribes. The war lasted for 3 years. After paying a heavy price, the humans finally repelled the first wave of the blood tide. Who knew? Without giving the humans a chance to take a breather, the second wave of attack came. This time, the brilliant Empire brought out their trump card. Thousands of divine cannons were activated, releasing energy that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, enveloping the aliens and the blood monsters. An earth-shattering might erupted, easily repelling the second wave of attacks. However, the divine cannons also had a fatal flaw. They required blood evil ores as energy. In the Blood Valley, blood evil ores were extremely rare treasures. Even with the glorious Empire's influence, they had only collected about 10,000 ores after so many years. This also meant that the divine cannons could only be fired 10 times before they became completely useless. Under the waves of attacks from the foreign tribes and the blood monsters, the divine cannons finally ran out of energy and became completely useless. However, the Blood Tide's attack was also clearly weakened. As long as the humans clenched their teeth and persevered for a few more rounds, they would be able to completely resolve the crisis of the Blood Tide. After another wave of attack was repelled, the foreign tribes and blood monsters that hadn't attacked for a long time started again. The human defense line was filled with cheers. Su Fong's consciousness was residing in the divine crow totem statue. His cold gaze shot out from the statue, looking into the distance with a serious expression. The organizers of the Jioshuan's Heaven Selection will definitely not let the participants in so easily. The final attack is about to arrive. Su Fong made the Divine Crow tribe raise their vigilance and prepare for another battle. Indeed, as Su Fong predicted, after 3 days of silence, the blood tide formed by the foreign tribes and blood monsters once again swept over. However, to Su Fong's surprise, the number of foreign tribes and blood monsters this time was clearly not as much as before. They stopped at a distance of 30 li from the glorious Empire's defense line. The humans were all puzzled. Countless pairs of eyes were looking at the foreign tribes and blood monsters. Suddenly, puff, puff. The blood monsters suddenly attacked the foreign tribes and crazily devoured them. Strangely, the foreign tribes didn't resist and allowed the blood monsters to devour them. Soon, hundreds of millions of foreign tribes were devoured by the blood monsters. Killing each other? They didn't expect the blood monsters and foreign tribes to be killing each other. Things weren't over yet. After the blood monsters devoured all the foreign tribes, they started to devour each other again. After every devour, the blood monster's aura would become even more majestic. The number of blood monsters decreased rapidly until only one blood monster was left. That blood monster was very strange. It was hundreds of meters tall, but it didn't have a head. Instead, it had 4 arms. Its body seemed to be made of fresh blood, and it was covered with countless killing marks and 81 killing star images. The blood monster's navel suddenly split open and turned into a mouth. It let out a voice filled with killing intent. Kill. A wave of killing intent rushed into the sky, enveloping the entire mortal world in its aura. This headless blood monster was more than 10,000 times stronger than the previous blood monsters. Its aura had surpassed the limits of mortals. It had even surpassed the realm of Dao Jun and Dao Lord. It had reached the level of Dao Lord. In the mortal world, Dao Jun realm experts were almost invincible. Now, this blood monster had reached the level of Dao Lord. Who could resist it? Kill. Many contestants who were residing in the totem statues naturally knew the name of this headless blood monster. Kill. The contestants were completely in despair. Dongxian Daozu had killed a foreign tribe expert and refined its corpse into a blood valley. The name of that foreign tribe expert was Kill. The name of this headless blood monster was also Slaughter, which could only mean one thing. This headless blood monster was the incarnation of Slaughter's will, which devoured the life aura of the alien race and the evil blood aura of the Blood Valley. QL11, if these contestants still had the strength, they would not be afraid of this headless blood monster. However, the consciousness of the contestants was residing in the totem statues. Apart from the Demon Clan youth who had used the forbidden technique of the Demon Clan to create a clone by devouring life aura, the other contestants could not display any of their strength. It's over. It's completely over. Not only the mortals, but all the contestants were in despair. Why isn't it over yet? Every contestant was looking forward to the end so that they could leave the mortal world as soon as possible. Kill. The headless blood monster shouted coldly from its navel and strode toward the defensive line. Boom! The headless blood monster waved its 4 arms and sent out 4 huge bloody palm prints that fell on the defensive line. The defensive line, which was incomparably strong for the mortals, was now as fragile as tofu. It collapsed with a loud bang. There were countless casualties. The totem statues of the 4 contestants were also destroyed directly. Many mortals were trembling with fear. Many of them were so scared that they knelt on the ground. Some who were not strong enough were scared to death. The brilliant empire's totem has escaped. Someone shouted loudly, waking everyone up from their shock and fear. As expected, the totem statues of the brilliant empire quickly retreated to the back of the defensive line under the protection of 100,000 elite soldiers. Dongxuan's brilliant empire has escaped. What are we still doing here? Are we going to be buried with these mortals? Let's go. We've already gotten our mountain tokens. As long as we can drag it out until the time limit of 1,000 years, we'll have completed our mission. How can we stay here and die with these ants? Dongxuan's brilliant empire's escape made the other contestants follow suit. They selected elites from their nations and tribes to protect the totem statues and escape quickly. The mortals who were already in a state of great panic were now in complete despair. Chapter 28:59. Retreat. Su Fong looked at the white-haired chief of the Shunya tribe and fell into silence. Given the current situation, retreating from the brilliant empire was the best choice. The Shunya tribe still had 10,000 Shunya soldiers that they had yet to mobilize. With the overall strength of the Shunya tribe, protecting Su Fong and delaying until the end of the battle was an easy task. Boom! 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 The headless blood monsters continued to attack the defensive line of the brilliant empire. The defensive line was collapsing continuously. Facing a monster that was comparable to a Dao Master, these humans were no different from ants. Countless people were killed in the attacks. Screams of agony could be heard everywhere. The totem has abandoned us. It's over. It's completely over. Lord Totem, why did you abandon us? All the mortals fell into endless despair. Some fled in all directions. Some simply gave up and cried in despair. The entire brilliant empire was like the end of the world. Although the Shunya tribe was not as desperate as the other tribes, they were still frightened and panicked. Su Fong looked at the chief of the Shunya tribe and asked indifferently, "If I leave, the morale of the Shunya tribe will definitely collapse. In the end, the entire tribe will be annihilated. Are you still trying to persuade me to leave?" "Lord," the chief of the Shunya tribe knelt down and kowtowed. "Our Shunya tribe was originally a small tribe with less than 1,000 people. Under the protection of Lord Totem, the Shunya tribe became a top-notch tribe and even surpassed most of the countries. The Shunya tribe can be so glorious. Even if the entire tribe is annihilated, we will have no regrets. Moreover, the final annihilation is the fate of the Shunya tribe and all the countries and tribes. We're just ants and dust. If God wants us to be annihilated, how can we not be annihilated?" The chief of the Shunya tribe said calmly. He knew that this day would come. The mortals in the mortal world knew their fate, but they were powerless to change it. The only thing they could do was to accept it silently. Su Fong looked at the white-haired chief of the Shunya tribe. This was already the third chief of the Shunya tribe. Su Fong watched him grow from a baby to a dying old man. The Shunya tribe was like a baby that was carefully taken care of and nurtured by Su Fong. For other cultivators, this trip to the mortal world was a competition or even a game. Those mortals were just chess pieces and ants. However, for Su Fong, it was completely different. At this moment, Su Fong was unable to abandon the divine Crow tribe and escape alone. Su Fong's will enveloped everyone in the divine Crow tribe. Divine Crow Army. The Shunya patriarch kowtowed to Su Fong. Farewell, Lord Totem. The people of the divine Crow tribe also understood and knelt down in front of Su Fong. Little did they know, godly Crow Army, break out the defensive line and kill the blood monsters. Su Fong's decree made everyone in the divine Crow tribe shocked and stupefied. The leader of the Shunya patriarch stammered, "My lord, if you're here, then I'm here," Su Fong said casually, but there was a domineering air about him. "We are here. Lord Totem is here," the elder of the Shunya clan said with a trembling voice and tears in his eyes. "We are here. Lord Totem is here. This is the totem of our divine Crow tribe." The people of the divine Crow tribe shouted in unison, their voices echoing through the clouds. At this moment, the glorious empire's defensive line had completely collapsed. Many mortals were running around like a nest of ants, completely in a state of panic. The voices of the divine Crow tribe resounded in all directions. The panicked people looked towards the divine Crow tribe. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 10,000 soldiers of the divine Crow army jumped down from the defensive line and went straight for the headless blood monsters. "Raise me up. I want to see the divine Crow army kill the blood monsters with my own eyes." Su Fong sent a message to the people of the divine Crow tribe. Thousands of people of the divine Crow tribe quickly built a human tower that was more than 1,000 feet tall and lifted the divine Crow totem high up. That's the totem of the divine Crow tribe. The totem of the divine Crow tribe didn't abandon its people. The panicked mortals quieted down and looked at the divine Crow totem that was lifted up high. They were all shocked and in awe. In Dallas City, seeing the headless blood monsters slaughtering the mortals wantonly and seeing the contestants running for their lives, everyone fell into silence. The choice of Dongxian Huihuang and the others was not wrong. With their current strength, they were no match for the headless blood monsters. However, everyone's heart was filled with a sense of sadness. Now, it was the mortals in the Blood Valley world who were abandoned. If the foreign tribes really invaded the human world, the experts would abandon them. How could they not feel sad? Almost all the contestants, including Dongxian Huihuang, had run for their lives. Only one person remained, the divine Crow totem. Who was the divine Crow totem? How domineering. This person is a hero. The divine Crow tribe had preserved their strength at the critical moment. At that time, people had already guessed that this person was Su Fong. Su Fong. This person must be Su Fong. Such courage. No wonder he could stand out when the foreign tribes invaded Dongxian. Every cultivator in Dallas City was discussing. Previously, Supreme Elder Spring Autumn and the others had already determined that the divine Crow tribe's totem was Su Fong. Now, all the cultivators in Dallas City knew the identity of the divine Crow tribe's totem. Amidst their shock, Su Fong's image in their hearts suddenly became lofty and majestic. QL11, although the idol on the heavenly chosen list was only 100 feet tall, it was like a towering mountain in the eyes of many cultivators, capable of shaking the heavens. At the glorious empire's defense line, the mortals stopped running for their lives and rushed to the divine Crow tribe's defense line. Su Fong, for a bunch of mortals, he actually gave up his own future. When the totem idol is destroyed, he will be eliminated. Stupid, extremely stupid. Showing off at such a time, what a joke. The contestants who were being escorted to escape also sensed the commotion at the defense line and mocked Su Fong. There were also contestants who admired Su Fong, but not many had the courage to take the risk and go back. Su Fong is a peerless genius ranked 5th on the heavenly chosen list. If he isn't afraid of being eliminated, what are we afraid of? We've abandoned these mortals this time, but when the foreign tribes invade the human world, it will be our turn to be abandoned. Kill our way back. Abandoning these mortals now will make my Tao heart unstable. I'm going all out. At most, I'll lose a strand of my consciousness and be eliminated. I can't do something like running for my life. Gu Tianqi, Dong Xianichen, and the other geniuses transmitted their consciousness to the other totem idols, then turned around and rushed to the defense line. Under their lead, nearly a third of the contestants returned with the mortals who were protecting the idols. Su Fong, you are indeed scheming. Even this seat is inferior to you. Dong Xin Huiwang realized that he had miscalculated this time. The prestige that he had painstakingly built by building the glorious empire and joining forces with the mortal world to fight against the blood tide had completely crumbled as he fled first. In the end, it served as a foil to Su Fong, making Dongxian Huihuang feel indignant. However, it was impossible for him to turn around and go back now. Even if he went back, it would be difficult to restore his reputation. I didn't expect that ant to be such a powerful character. He may be in the limelight now, but when he's killed by the blood monster later, he won't even have the chance to enter Slaughter Mountain. What's the use of being in the limelight now? Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng were surprised as well, but they snorted at Su Fong's actions. Boom, boom, boom. 10,000 heavenly crow soldiers cast the heavens, splitting formation, and engaged in an earth-shattering battle with the blood monster. The heavens splitting formation created by Su Fong was indeed shocking. When it was set up with 100 heavenly crow soldiers, it had almost killed the green python that was comparable to the Daojian realm. Now that it was set up with 10,000 heavenly crow soldiers, the power of the formation was more than 10,000 times stronger than before. Not only was the formation formed by 10,000 mortal cultivators and cultivators able to hold their own against a terrifying blood monster that was comparable to a Dao Lord, but they were even able to trap the headless blood monster named Slay within the Sky Fisher formation. Seeing this, the mortals on the defense line cheered in excitement, sweeping away their previous despair and dejection. Su Fong is mighty. Su Fong is invincible. This is heaven-defying. 10,000 ant-like mortals are fighting against a Taoist master, and they're not at a disadvantage. Su Fong is heaven-defying. In Daoless City, every cultivator was shocked and exclaiming. Even Dongshuan's powerhouses were looking at the heavenly chosen divine list with disbelief. Play to the gallery. The exalted holiness of spring and autumn snorted. Grand Elder Zhangsun of the 3 highest mysterious sects stroked his beard and echoed. That's right. Although the mortals' formation is extraordinary, it can't last long. Mortals are mortals. How can they fight against a god? It was just as Grand Elder Zhangsun had said. Although the heavens splitting formation formed by 10,000 heavenly crow soldiers continuously inflicted heavy damage on the headless blood monster, the blood monster's recovery ability was shocking. It was still difficult to kill it. Looking at the heavenly crow soldiers, every time the blood monster exploded, a dozen of them would die from the earthquake. Many of them would die from exhaustion. As the heavenly crow soldiers died, the power of the heavens splitting formation began to weaken. If this continued, no one would be able to escape from the catastrophe, let alone kill the headless blood monster. Suddenly, the indifferent and dignified voice of the expert hosting the finals of the Blood Valley rang in the mortal world. The 1,000-year time limit is up. The participants' mission has ended. You may leave the mortal world. The participants were surprised and delighted, all of them secretly heaving a long sigh of relief. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Strands of consciousness flew out from the totem statue, carrying a mountaineering medallion with them as they flew into the sky. It's over just like this? I can't accept this. Su Fong looked at the heavens, splitting formation that was on the verge of collapse. Then, at the mortals, his eyes filled with unwillingness. Chapter 2860. Although the mortals and the people of the divine Crow tribe couldn't hear the voice of the Joshuan elite, they could see that the totems had left and speculate the truth of the matter. This time, it was equivalent to being completely abandoned by the supreme God, causing all the mortals to fall into despair. In the eyes of the divine Crow totem statue, there was a look of certainty and determination. Immediately, Sufangs will spread throughout the divine Crow tribe. As long as the divine Crow tribe exists, I will exist. Lord Totem. The people of the divine Crow tribe were shocked and moved. Everyone's eyes were filled with tears, and their blood was boiling. As long as the divine Crow totem is here, the divine Crow tribe will not perish. Men of the divine Crow tribe, follow me to protect the Lord Totem and kill that blood monster. The white-haired leader of the divine Crow tribe shouted loudly. He jumped down from the defensive line and went straight to the sky, splitting array. For the Lord Totem, for the divine Crow tribe. The cultivators and warriors of the divine Crow tribe followed the leader of the divine Crow tribe and jumped down from the defensive line and went straight to the sky, splitting array. The blood of the divine Crow tribe was boiling. The blood of the mortals in the mortal world that had turned cold started to boil and burn. Sufangsville was inside the divine Crow totem. Seeing this scene, he felt that the lifeless totem was boiling with blood. Crazy, Sufang, you're a madman. Sufang is crazy, and so are the mortals. Crazy, I like it. Gu Qianxi and Dong Xinichen saw this scene and gave up the idea of leaving. Their minds were still inside the totem. Most of the cultivators and warriors of the divine Crow tribe had practiced the sky splitting array, but their strength was not as strong as the divine Crow army. The clan leader of the Shinya tribe and the cultivators and warriors of the Shanya tribe quickly took the places of the dead or exhausted Shinya soldiers. The sky-splitting array once again exploded with shocking power and pressed down on the headless blood monster. Kill. The divine Crow army is mighty. The divine Crow totem is mighty. Countless mortals returned to the defensive line, and a tsunami of cheers erupted from their bodies. This scene occupied the entire chosen god list. Daolis City fell into a deathly silence. Countless cultivators and mortals, like the mortals from Blood Valley, felt their blood boiling and burning in their bodies. Many people couldn't wait to enter the Blood Valley and join the ranks of those attacking the blood monster. At this moment, Su Fang had completely subdued everyone. Not only the cultivators of Heaven Forsaken, but also the experts from Dongshuan's mystical worlds and forces. From what I see, Su Fang is only using these mortals. It's just that their methods are brilliant. Compared to Dongshuan's glory, it's still far inferior. High Holiness Spring and Autumn snorted inexplicably, still sneering at Su Fang. Swish, swish. QL11 many of the heavyweights of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain looked over, their eyes filled with anger. One of the heavyweights snorted, whether Su Fang is using these mortals or not, at least he stayed at the end with them. As for Dongshuan's glory, he's the first to flee. Another expert nodded and said, "That's right. If the other races are really invading the human world, what we need is a hot-blooded man like Su Fang, not a smart man who abandons the human race and runs away." The Grand Elder of Luo Shao Sword Sect, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke with a sword-like voice. Su Fang will definitely be Dongxian in the future, a peerless hero of the human race. I hereby declare that whoever dares to suppress him in the future, the Luo Shao Sword Sect will be the first to disagree. High Holiness Spring and Autumn didn't expect that his words would provoke everyone's anger. His face turned green as black and white Xianguang surged in his eyes. In the end, he had to swallow his anger. Under Slaughtering Mountain, other than Su Fang and Gu Qianxi, the other participants had retracted their thoughts. However, the senses of many participating cultivators were still focused on the mortal world. Seeing Su Fang's thoughts, the Xinya tribe's mortals came forward one after another. Many of the participants were shocked. It's already over, but Su Fang is still in the mortal world. Is it worth it for a bunch of ants? He just wants to use this opportunity to gain the attention of the experts and make a name for himself. Cultivators should be decisive and ruthless. Su Fang's future achievements will be limited if he's so soft-hearted. What a clown! Someone mocked and ridiculed Su Fang's actions. However, there were also people who felt ashamed when they compared themselves to Su Fang. Su Fang can train a bunch of mortals to be so powerful and use formations to fight against the Taoist master. I'm far inferior to him. Only in times of crisis can one show his greatness. Su Fang's courage is unparalleled. I admire such a person. Compared to Su Fang, Dongxian Huiwang, Yi Feishuan, and Li Sheng from Zhongxian are nothing. Dongxian Huiwang and the others were furious when they heard these words. The battle between the Xinya tribe and the headless blood monster was still ongoing. Batch after batch of Xinya tribe's cultivators and martial artists were killed by the blood monster. Some died from exhaustion. However, there were Xinya tribe's cultivators who rushed to the sky-splitting formation without hesitation to fill in the gaps. There was no despair on the faces of the Xinya tribe's people. Instead, there was a sense of determination. After kowtowing to the Xinya tribe's totem, they rushed to death without fear. Time ticked by. 3 days later, the powerful headless blood monster finally fell to the ground and turned into a bloody aura that dissipated. When the bloody aura and dust dissipated, everyone could see that there were nearly 100,000 Xinya tribes people lying on the ground. Some of them had been killed directly by the blood monster, their bodies incomplete. Some had exhausted their strength and life force. These corpses all had one thing in common. They all had a smile on their faces. There were also some Xinya tribes people who knelt on the ground after death in the direction of the Xinya tribe's totem. The white-haired chief of the Xinya tribe had died long ago. His white hair and beard were dyed red with blood, but he supported himself with both hands on the ground and tried to make a kneeling posture. This scene, the mortals in the mortal world were shocked. Dongshuan's leaders, cultivators, and mortals in Dallas City were shocked by the tragic scene. The many contestants at the foot of Slaughter Mountain, including Dongxian Huiwang, were also shocked. There were also a few consciousnesses who had been watching everything in the Blood Valley. They were the top existences in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain and Jiushuan Divine Domain. Their Tao hearts, which were unmoved even if the sky fell and the earth cracked, were also shaken by this scene. The catastrophe of the mortal world was finally resolved successfully. There were no cheers. All the mortals knelt silently to the statue on the top of the human pagoda. Su Fang sighed soundlessly, his consciousness enveloping the surroundings. Everyone, this is done. This reputed one should also leave. After a moment of silence, the Xinya tribe's people burst into tears. Su Fang continued to speak in everyone's minds with his consciousness, continue to spread the cultivation civilization that this reputed one has left behind. Perhaps there's a chance that your descendants will have the chance to completely change their fate through their own efforts. Finally, this reputed one bids farewell. Farewell, Lord Totem. The Xinya tribe's people and countless mortals kowtowed heavily to the Xinya totem. Su Fang's consciousness flew out of the statue and wrapped around a mountaineering medallion. Together with Gu Tianxi and Dong Xianichen's consciousness, they left the mortal world and returned to his body at the foot of Slaughter Mountain. Su Fang, this reputed one used to look down on you because you were born in a low-level universe. Now, this reputed one is convinced. Su Fang, when the finals are over, I will treat you to a drink. I just don't know if you will give me face. As soon as Su Fang's consciousness returned to the Taoist palace, streams of consciousness immediately transmitted to him. Su Fang had to divert his attention to respond to them one by one. Suddenly, buzz, buzz, buzz. Su Fang suddenly felt his Taoist heart tremble, making strange movements. Shocked and shocked, Su Fang sensed it and was surprised to find that his Taoist heart had undergone a great change again. After becoming a Taoist master, Su Fang's Taoist heart had also undergone a transformation, becoming like a diamond. At this moment, his Taoist heart had shrunk by nearly 1/3 of its original size, becoming angular and releasing dazzling 7-colored brilliance. Not only had his Taoist heart become stronger, but it had also become clearer inside, without a trace of impurities. Shi Xian Daozu suddenly spoke in the Taoist palace. Su Feng, congratulations. Your colorful jade Taoist heart has finally transformed into the seven-colored diamond Taoist heart. Seven-colored diamond Taoist heart? What the hell was that? However, it didn't seem to be a bad thing, but a great thing. The seven-colored diamond Taoist heart is an extraordinary Taoist heart that surpasses the colorful jade Taoist heart. Although there is still a gap between it and the immortal Taoist heart, it is superior to most Taoist hearts. What benefits can the seven-colored diamond Taoist heart bring me? This was what Su Feng was most concerned about. Of course, there are great benefits. With a seven-colored diamond Taoist heart, not only is it indestructible, it will not be eroded by inner demons, and it will not be easily shaken by external forces. It can also shatter some powerful Taoist heart attacks. Moreover, the Taoist heart is the foundation of a cultivator. If the Taoist heart is not strong, you will achieve nothing on the path of cultivation. You have the seven-colored diamond Taoist heart, which means that you will go even higher and further on the path of cultivation. I didn't expect to be able to obtain such benefits. This is an unexpected surprise. Every word and action of a cultivator is cultivation. Obtaining the seven-colored diamond Taoist heart is also your reward for this trial in the mortal world. Just wait. There will probably be more benefits waiting for you. Su Feng, your performance this time is very good. Master is very satisfied. He had just finished his conversation with Shi Xian Daozu. Contestants. An illusory figure appeared above everyone. It was the peerless expert who had never shown his face in the Blood Valley Finals. Chapter 2861. After the test before the finals, a total of 3,174 people have obtained mountaineering tokens, which means that 3,174 people will participate in the finals of the Blood Valley. The supreme expert presiding over the finals announced. Only then did the contestants notice that the number of cultivators around them had decreased significantly. Out of the 10,005 contestants, only a little more than 3,000 were left. The rest were naturally eliminated. Who would have thought? The finals of the Blood Valley were so cruel that 2/3 of the contestants had been eliminated before the real finals had even begun. The official finals that followed would definitely be even crueler. Then, the supreme expert spoke of what the contestants were most concerned about. According to the contestants' previous performance, the grades of the mountaineering tokens you've obtained will be different. Now, this seat will determine the grade of your tokens based on your performance. Su Feng guessed that the benefit Shi Xian Daozu was talking about should be the grade of the mountaineering tokens. He was immediately filled with anticipation. With his previous performance, he should be able to obtain the highest grade of mountaineering token. Swoosh! Swoosh! As soon as the supreme expert finished speaking, the mountaineering tokens in all the contestants' bodies automatically flew out of their bodies and floated above their heads. These mountaineering tokens looked exactly the same. They were only the size of a palm and seemed to be carved from white jade. That supreme powerhouse waved his hand and swept out a wave of divine might that swept across the tokens in an instant. Buzz! 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 All the mountaineering tokens trembled and emitted buzzing sounds. The tokens began to change one by one. Most of the tokens first had mysterious and abstruse markings before turning bronze, as if they were made of bronze. Some of the contestants' tokens had deeper and more abstruse markings that eventually flashed with a silver glow. Only a very small number of mountaineering tokens had markings that intertwined into a star pattern that was even more mysterious and abstruse. Finally, it flashed with a golden light as if it were made of gold. The lowest grade was naturally the bronze token, which belonged to the lower grade. That kind of silver token belonged to the middle grade token category. The lowest number was also the highest grade, which was naturally the gold token. Dongxian Hui Wang, Yi Fei Xuan, Li Sheng, the Yao Youth Gu Qianqi, Dongxian Ichen, and the others all had the highest grade gold tokens. Although they didn't know what the mountaineering token was used for, The contestants knew that the quality of the mountaineering token would directly affect their performance in the finals. Those competitors who obtained low-grade tokens were naturally disappointed, and they were extremely envious of those competitors who obtained gold and silver tokens. It looks like my previous performance has won the approval of the host of Jiuquan. Otherwise, I wouldn't have received the highest grade of Ascension Medallion. Dongxian Huiwang held the Ascension Medallion in his hand, pride shining in his eyes. I'd like to see what grade of mountaineering token Su Fong can obtain in the end. Dongxian Huiwang looked at Su Fong. Not only was Dongxian brilliant, almost all the cultivators wanted to know what level of token Su Fong would receive. All of them looked towards the top of Su Fong's head. Swish, swish, swish. Everyone's gaze was focused on the mountaineering token above Su Fong's head, and they were all dumbfounded. It wasn't just the other cultivators. Even Su Fong himself was dumbfounded when he saw the mountaineering token. His mountaineering token didn't seem to have changed. It was still carved from white jade. This meant that his mountaineering token was a blank slate, not even comparable to the lowest grade bronze token. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Su Fong had performed so shockingly in the process of searching for the mountaineering token, but the result was actually like this. Everyone was at a loss. Yi Feishuan guffawed, breaking the silence. Who asked you to play to the gallery? Your mountaineering token isn't even comparable to the lowest grade. You deserve it, the Yao youth laughed maniacally. Who asked you to be in the limelight? You deserve it, ha. Many people were gloating as well. After Dongxian Huiwang recovered from his shock, he smiled indifferently. His eyes were filled with unparalleled pleasure. A sense of superiority from being above Su Fong and stepping on Su Fong beneath his feet arose spontaneously. Most of the participants felt indignant on behalf of Su Fong. How was Su Fong's performance in the mortal world worse than Dongxian Huiwang, Yi Feishuan, and the rest? In the end, his mountaineering token wasn't even comparable to the lowest grade. It was truly unfair. Su Fong was infuriated, then conflicted and depressed emotions surfaced. At this moment, Shi Xian Daozu suddenly asked, "What was the purpose of your actions in the mortal world?" Su Fong answered, "Other than the mountaineering token, it was also to help those mortals. If you knew there would be such an outcome, would you still do it?" Su Fong answered without hesitation. "Even if I knew there would be such an outcome, I would have done it without hesitation. I wouldn't have given up on those mortals. In the human world, those who are heroes don't receive the fair treatment they deserve. This is also the tragedy of the human race. However, a true hero only seeks a smooth Tao heart in everything he does. He doesn't care about how much he receives. Su Fong, you must remember, to remain indifferent to honor or disgrace is the heart of a cultivator. Thank you for your teachings, Master. This disciple understands." Su Fong calmed his breathing. His newly transformed 7 colors Vajra's Tao heart exuded waves of coolness, calming his state of mind quickly. Su Fong looked at the Jiuquan expert who was hosting the finals of Blood Valley and bowed with cupped fists. "Sir," Su Fong, calm down. "Don't offend that peerless expert." Gu Tianxi, Dong Xianchen, and the rest quickly transmitted their thoughts to Su Fong. "You're courting death. You're asking for death." Dongxian Huiwang, Yi Feishuan, and the rest looked at Su Fong coldly, eager for Su Fong to anger the expert and kill him. The peerless expert said indifferently, "What is it?" Su Fong said, "This one has a request. Please grant it, sir." The Jiuquan expert's voice was obviously displeased. An invisible pressure enveloped Su Fong, causing him to tremble and almost suffocate. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The 7 colors Vajra's Tao heart flashed brilliantly, causing Su Fong's Tao heart and will to become incomparably sturdy, dissolving the expert's pressure. That expert was surprised. Then he said, "What is it? Tell me." Su Fong gritted his teeth and said, "I beg you, sir, to properly deal with the mortals in the inner space of Blood Valley after the finals of Blood Valley are over." Su Fong's words surprised everyone. "The matter you're talking about is not for your ascension token, but for those mortals?" Yes. The expert was silent for a moment before he finally nodded and said, "As you wish. When the finals of Blood Valley are over, this one will earnestly request Dongxian Daozu to move those mortals to a low-level universe and let them live." Su Fangdao was overjoyed. "Thank you, sir." Just like that, the hundreds of millions of mortals in Blood Valley's inner space had their destinies completely changed because of Su Fang. Then, the expert asked curiously, "Why don't you ask why you've received a ascension token of such a level despite your stunning performance?" Su Fang answered respectfully, "Sir, you naturally have your reasons for making such an arrangement. Perhaps I didn't do well enough to satisfy you. Besides, the results of the finals will depend on one's own ability. The ascension token is an external object, after all. It can't decide anything. Indifferent to honor and disgrace, very good." The expert's silhouette chuckled, obviously very satisfied with Su Fang's performance. Suddenly, the expert's voice rang in Su Fang's mind. "Young man, take a closer look at your ascension token. It's not an ungraded token, it's a supreme one. This one isn't blind. Even this one is impressed by your performance. Why would I give you an ungraded token? As for its use, you'll naturally understand in the finals. It'll be of great use to you." Then he chuckled again. Besides, so many experts and all of Dongxuan's cultivators are watching. If this one really did that, wouldn't I be scolded to death? Su Fang, you're very good. I hope you could surprise this one again in the finals. A supreme token? Su Fang was shocked and stunned. He grabbed the token above his head and took a look. Under the gaze of his perfect perfection vision, Su Fang discovered the extraordinariness of the token as expected. Although the token looked ordinary on the surface, upon closer inspection, one could see that the token was densely packed with markings that interweaved into a vast formation that contained endless mysteries. There were also 9 star patterns on the token, very similar to the killing star pattern on the blood armor. In addition, Su Fang could sense that this ordinary-looking token exuded an aura that was comparable to the king's Xianbao. My ascension token is indeed extraordinary. I just don't know what it's used for. Su Fang was very unhappy, but he did not show it on his face. Seeing this, the surrounding contestants felt sorry for Su Fang. Some felt it was unfair for him, and some were gloating. Contestants, the finals of the Blood Valley have officially begun. You may enter Slaughter Mountain now. With the Supreme Expert's command, more than 3,000 contestants immediately tensed up. They pulled themselves together and flew towards Slaughter Mountain. Buzz. At the periphery of Slaughter Mountain, they encountered a powerful barrier. The ascension tokens in the contestants' bodies automatically released a protective divine aura, allowing the contestants to pass through the barrier with ease. They were swept into Slaughter Mountain by a divine aura that distorted space. Everyone was at the foot of Slaughter Mountain. The true face of Slaughter Mountain was displayed in front of the contestants. QL-11, the enormous mountain that was 30 kilometers tall, caused all the participants to feel tiny. Its imposing aura was majestic and lofty, and it emitted a fierce aura of slaughter that pressured everyone to the point they trembled. Winding paths led to the top of the mountain. Further up, it was shrouded in blood-colored clouds, obscuring the view above. Many contestants guessed that the competition of the finals of the Blood Valley was to climb the mountain.